and gentlemen. Are we ready to go? If I can ask everybody to take their seat, that'd be great. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is 10 a.m. I'm going to call to order the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners. And at this time, welcome to our chambers. And sir, would you like to lead us in the salute to the flag this morning? Yes, would you? All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. And on this Veterans Day week, we appreciate you. Thank you for your service as well. All right, Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call?
Of course. Bob Lucy, Chair.
Here.
Von Hartung, Vice Chair.
Here.
Lexis Hale on Zoom.
Here.
Kitty Jung on Zoom. Kitty, are you there?
Commissioner Jung? Looks like we're probably going to have to call her and get her on the phone. All right.
Okay. Jeannie Herman?
Here. I'm here. Excuse me.
There she is.
Sorry.
Kitty.
I had to press *6 to unmute. Took me a while. Thank you.
Okay.
County Manager Eric Brown. Assistant District Attorney Nathan Edwards.
Here.
And I'm Jan Galasini, your County Clerk, so you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We do appreciate that. All right. Madam Clerk, or Mr. Manager, item 3, sir.
Minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
All right, Madam Clerk, will you please call public comment?
First up in chambers, we have Charles Stockford.
Mr. Stockford, I apologize. I should have recognized you, but the mask makes it difficult. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Charles Stockford. It's about the 4th time I've come in here to talk to you about a problem that is not being addressed at all. It's just getting worse. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, sir.
Okay. The situation on Quartz Lane is not getting any better. There has been no action taken up there at all to clean up that mess. There's 3 or 4 motorhomes up there with people living in them on the street. There's a guy up there that hauls junk in every day with his car and truck, and they pile it on the side of the road, and he's had to move his car and truck out further from the curb because he's got too much stuff piled up there. The other day when we had the strong winds, he had mattresses and cushions, and there was a TV set, and I don't know what else, blown out into the road. It's a 1-lane road now. If there's somebody coming the other way, you gotta wait. And I've talked about this for the last 13 years about this same situation and the same individual. He's not the only one. He kind of breeds that kind of life. So I thought I'd stop in here today and see if we could address this problem again. I don't know what else to do, but the children that go to school can't walk down that road no more. There's people living in those trailers that I wouldn't want to associate with, just to wave at them. And there's trucks coming up and down that road all the time, and if they're coming up the road, you gotta wait until they get out of the way. It's a 2-lane road, but they've got it congested to the point that you can't get out anymore. So I would like to see if something could be done. It was done once before, and your code enforcement evidently didn't do anything, and it just came back to live again. It's growing. I don't know what else to do, but the children have to be bused to school. They can't walk down that road. So I appreciate you for listening to me, and maybe something can get done.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Appreciate it.
Next up, we have Donald Fossum.
Good morning, Mr. Fossum. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing good. And I'm about to tell you why, because I have words of encouragement for all of you. And I'm encouraging you to get the hell out of town. And that's not vindictively. It's based on my experience of having gone out of town. I've been to numerous states lately, visiting relatives my age, mask-free states all the way, except for guess where? My relatives are doing fine in their environments. Their extended families are doing fine in their environments. So thank you for sitting still for all that. I'd like to read you something from an expert. I think. I'll be with you in a minute. Whoop. Okay, here we go. Those who are, this is by Dr. Marty Markery, those who are unvaccinated pose no risk to the vaccinated. People who are unvaccinated are not immune to COVID-19 have been demonized, and it is unfounded. According to Dr. Marty, a professor at St. John's School of Board, those who are unvaxxed pose no risk to the vaccinated beyond that of a common cold. He is concerned that there may be another year of virtual learning in schools. As schools are starting to open, you see an incline naturally, but it also coming into cold and flu season. What he goes on to say is that he would like to see, rather than the dialogue of vaxxed and non-vaxxed, he'd like to see us develop a dialogue of immunity and non-immune. Well, we have proved no great advantage to being vaxxed or unvaxxed. So it makes no difference that we cannot prove who's immune and who isn't. So why don't we just eliminate these emergency orders, please, and get on with a normal, happy life like we had in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fossum.
I have nobody else signed in, but I do have an email that I'll place on the record from Janet Butcher.
All right, marvelous, thank you. All right, seeing no further public comment, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. Mr. Manager, we are on to commissioners and county managers' announcements. Do you have anything this morning that you would like to add?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have one item, which is to announce that we have every week, or basically every meeting over the last couple of months, I've been providing updates on our census at our homeless shelters. Happy to announce this morning that we have launched our homeless shelter dashboard, which is up on the screen. So for the public, if you go to the Washoe County website and you type in homeless services in the search bar, it will take you to this page, which is updated daily with each of our shelters' populations and number of empty beds. So I just want to thank our folks in the Homeless Services Group for putting this information together, and also to our communications group, which has worked to make this happen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of different things. So the first thing I'd like to ask staff to come back and give us a short presentation on the timeline for a light at Sunset Springs and Egyptian on the Pyramid Highway. We've still got some pretty major issues there. Sadly, we had another fatality out in Spanish Springs. It was on Eagle Canyon. And so perhaps we can also talk about maybe county-wide some of the ways that we're dealing with traffic calming. I know we've asked for some traffic calming on Dolores. I'd like to get some information on that. I know that there's some traffic calming issues out in District 2, so maybe we can put together a small dashboard and staff can come and periodically talk to us about, some of those requests that the commissioners have made. And then finally, Commissioner Herman, Mr. Stockford has been here a number of times. He's in District 5. I'm happy to work with you to try to solve these problems, including putting in, maybe county-wide, we can ask all the commissioners to put in a certain amount of money from their funds to initiate some of these cleanups. We have the same thing in Spanish Springs. It's not quite the same as in Quartz Lane, but perhaps we can form a coalition between the commissioners and have an agenda item where we can have a discussion about that. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Herman, do you have anything this morning? Okay. Commissioner Hill, do you have anything?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just would love a presentation whenever we have that emergency rental assistance program up and going. I've been hearing from constituents about people who really need help on the ground, and I want to make sure we get that information out. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. All right, and Commissioner Jung, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. I shared some of the same concerns as the Vice Chairman in regards to the discussions about traffic calming. I know I have currently 3 locations within District 2, from Hidden Valley to Old Southwest, even Washoe Valley, to address some of the traffic issues throughout these communities. And so when staff comes back, Mr. Manager, if we can have them bring not only a priority list of potential of spots that commissioners have asked, but what the potential funding mechanisms could be, where that and what that would look like going forward. Also, as you know, this week is Veterans. There's Veterans Day on Thursday, and we're going to have a special proclamation for our veterans following this comment section. But we do want to reach out and say thank you for all of the veterans and families that have served currently and previously, and for the time that you have invested in our country into making it a wonderful, democratic and free society. We honor you, and hopefully we can get a number of those employees and individuals into our chambers today to honor them properly prior to this Veterans Day coming up. So another thing that I would like to ask is from staff are discussions about some of the discussions with the advanced warning system with NDOT. I would like to have, I know there's discussions out there to do away with the advanced warning systems. Mount Rose Highway has advanced warning systems on a number of their signals up and down State Route 431. There's advanced warning systems in Pyramid. There's also advanced warnings here out in Stead and Lemon Valley area. Those systems prove very valuable, and I think it kind of goes back to also the stop signs issues and the traffic calming, because I believe our engineers follow a common code and MCTUD. Very complicated, a very, very complicated analogy. Thank you. That is what we follow, but very, to the Vice Chairman's point, each specific instance within our county is a little bit different and needs to be addressed with a little bit of understanding from the code and the uniformity across the country, but yet having some adherence to a specific location would be a little bit better. So that's one thing I would like to do, but I'd like to have NDOT come and talk to us about the advanced warning systems and their plans, because those are some challenges that are out there that I think we need to address. And that's all that I have for today. So I have nothing further.
One more.
All right, Vice Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And thank you for that. I had it written on a different page. I'm sorry I didn't turn to the right page in my notes. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That's essential for Pyramid Highway because they're talking about the elimination of a number of those systems. They're just going to turn into constant flashers. So I think that this is an absolutely great way to look at calming devices all the way across the county. Also, when I was chairing in your stead, I neglected to mention that, and I apologize to Commissioner Hill, she recommended $3,000 from District 1 special funds, and this is with the last meeting, for the Truckee Meadows Community Progress Report, and this report shares the life data collected by Truckee Meadows tomorrow that can inform and foster positive change in the community. And she also requested $5,000 for the Washoe County Green Team to support its efforts to make Washoe County buildings more energy efficient and other green energy initiatives. And I forgot to thank her for those contributions to the community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, I think that concludes commissioners and managers' announcements. Mr. Manager, that takes us to item 5.
Item 5 is 5A1 is a proclamation to proclaim November 11th, 2021 as Veterans Day.
Mr. Manager, we were going to try
Delay
to
this.
have a number of individuals come. Do we give them a time of, and what time was that?
10:45, I believe.
10:45. So let's move some other stuff around. We'll come back to the proclamation in a little bit. So let's move on to item 6. We're not going to move into 5 yet. We'll move into item 6. This is our donations. So, Mr. Vice Chair, if you will, can you read us through our donations?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will. I'd like to recommend that we accept a donation from an anonymous donor, and I'm sad that we can't thank them personally, for the Human Services Agency and Indigent Service Fund in the amount of $10, retroactive of October 12th, 2021. And then I'd also ask that we accept a donation from the Council of State Government to the Washoe County Human Services Indigent Services Fund in the amount of $700, retroactive of March 21st, 2017. That's going back a ways. And then we ask the comptroller, and we direct the comptroller, rather, to make the necessary budget amendments. And then I would also recommend that we acknowledge various items donated totaling an estimated value of $6,733, and accept donations from various donors to Washoe County Human Services Child Protective Services Fund to support the welfare activities in the amount of $4,011.05. And that is retroactively for the period of July 1st, 2021 through October 15th, and direct the comptroller's office to make the necessary budget amendments. And then I would recommend that we acknowledge various items donated totaling an estimated market value of $14,143, and accept a donation from the Kaiser Family Trust to the Human Services Agency Senior Services Fund to support senior citizens pool hall in the amount of $52,157.57, and accept donations to the Human Services Agency Senior Services Fund to support operations of the Washoe County Senior Centers in the amount of $2,140.55, retroactively for the period of July 1st, 2021 through October 15th, 2021, and direct the comptroller to make the necessary budget amendments.
All right.
That is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Awesome, fantastic. And is that
That is in the form of a motion.
All right, thank you, sir. We want to thank all those individuals that donate to our Human Services Agency, and we at the county take it very seriously to support life all the way from birth to death. And it's important for us, and our Human Services Agency and all of our employees there work very hard and diligently to do that. And with your donations, it makes that access even that much more special for those individuals. So with that, I'll second that motion. Do we have any public comment, Madam Clerk, on any of these items?
We have nobody signed in.
Seeing no public comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. Please affirm your votes on the screen. All right. And we are on to our consent agenda, item 7. Mr. Manager, is there any changes we need to make to the consent agenda this morning?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Commissioners, is there any items in the consent agenda through 7A1 through 7H1 that would like more information or any detail on? Seeing none, hearing none, we will move on. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on any of these items?
There is
There-
not.
All right, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to accept the consent agenda as posted.
So moved, Hartung.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Herman. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. All right. We are on to, Mr. Vice Chair, do you have a block vote for us this morning?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. For the commission's consideration, I would propose that we put items 9 and 10 in the block vote.
9 and 10.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second for 9 and 10. All right. And with that, Mr. Manager, will you read those items into the record?
Item 9 is a recommendation and possible action to approve a settlement agreement wherein Washoe County will agree to pay Fleetwood Corporation the amount of $150,000 for construction and placement of the Pleasant Valley Sewer Interceptor over parcels of property in which Fleetwood holds geothermal and surface rights. Item 10 is a recommendation to approve budget amendments totaling an increase of $272,727 in both revenue and expense to the FY22 Tobacco Control Program for Youth Vaping Prevention Grant retroactive to July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, and direct the Comptroller's Office to make the appropriate budget amendments.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any public comment on either of these items?
There is none.
Seeing none. Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And what takes us back to item 8. This is, Mr. Manager, item 8.
Item 8 is a recommendation to accept the William N. Pennington Foundation grant in the amount of $539,647 with a Washoe County cash match in the amount of $332,000 for improvements to the Bowers Mansion pool facility, and approve the grant agreement and grant period of 1 year from notice to proceed, and authorize the Community Services Department Director to sign the grant agreement reports and any subsequent documents related to the grant on behalf of the county, and direct the Comptroller's Office to make the necessary budget amendments.
Okay. So this is the reason we wanted to take this out. We wanted to take a moment to thank the William N. Pennington Foundation for this generous donation to improve the Bowers Mansion pool facility. This facility is very historic, not only as a place of recreation for many individuals that live in our county that have utilized this pool for years and years and years, but the generosity from the William Pennington Foundation to continue to keep this pool in operation and functional for those to enjoy. We wanted to thank them significantly, because this is one of those pools are very expensive and very difficult to keep, and our poor Parks Department has been decimated over the years, and we're doing we're doing a very good job under Mr. Brown's management to continue to reinvigorate that parks budget. However, it's going to take time, and so this will provide us the needed capital to keep that pool operational and safe for all people to use, all of our residents to use here in Washoe County. So, Vice Chair, I have you signed in first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to briefly say, you know, the, 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 The William N. Pennington Foundation has its fingerprints everywhere in our community, from hospitals to pools. I knew Mr. Pennington personally, fondly known as Mr. P. He was as generous while he was alive as he is now that he is passed. His foundation just does so many great things for this community, and I cannot begin to express my debt of gratitude to Mr. Pennington's surviving family, to the foundation, and all of the hard work that they've done in our community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely agree. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment?
I have nobody signed in.
All right. Seeing no public comment and seeing no further comments from the commissioners, I am looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve item number 8, Mr. Chairman.
I will second that. I have a motion and a second. I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. Manager, that takes us to item 11. This is a public hearing on, so I will open the public hearing. And Mr. Manager, will you read us into this?
Item 11, public hearing, possible adoption of a resolution adopting master plan amendment case number WMPA 21-0005, which is the North Valley's character management area mapping, to adopt amendments to the Washoe County Master Plan, North Valley's Area Plan Appendix A, Character Management Plan Map, to remove the North Valley's Rural Character Management Area from 251 of 421 affected parcels as listed in Attachment A. Noticing map, in the noticing map, in order to correct non-conforming regulatory zones exempting the parcels within the Horizon Hills subdivision. Of the 251 parcels which are the subject of this request, 98 parcels were formerly in the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan area, and 153 parcels in the vicinity are almost completely surrounded by the city of Reno. If approved, authorize the chair to sign and the resolution to that effect. Final approval is subject to a finding of conformance with the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan by the Regional Planning Committee.
Okay. Do we have staff in the room to present on this?
I believe Mr. Solaro is here to present on this.
Mr. Chairman, before we go to staff on this, can I make just a comment about these kinds of things?
Sure.
And I applaud staff for bringing this forward. We have so many parcels in the county that are non-conforming. We have them in District 4, we have them in District 2, we have them in District 5. I'm sure we have them in District 1. I'm not sure how many we have in District 3, but I would ask staff that and I know that this is sort of opening back up commissioners and county managers' announcements, but we desperately need to bring many of the parcels in the county into conformance with the specific area plans where they reside. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Solero, can you give us a very brief synopsis?
Good morning. For the record, Dave Solero, Assistant County Manager. It will be brief. I was hopeful that a planner was probably caught in security on the way in here. This item probably came up a lot faster than the planners were hoping for today. But essentially, very high level. As you'll recall, the update to the regional plan released the STED Joint Corridor Management Planning Area. And so as staff has been going through kind of the ramifications of those, the most recent master plan update, these things are coming up. So we're finding locations where we have non-conforming uses based on some overlays and some other things within our plan. And so we're going through the process of trying to clean them up. And I'm not being very eloquent with this. However, what we needed to do was remove parcels from the rural character management area just because of circumstances, where they were, how they were overlaid, the types of things. This allows our community to actually do things with their property that they may not be able to today by taking this action. So just very brief, this was unanimous by the Planning Commission to do this action. So we're bringing it forward to you all. I believe it has to go on to regional planning after your board action. So
Okay.
if there are any specific questions, I can try to take a swing at those.
All right. Commissioners, are there any specific questions? Commissioner Herman?
So, am I on? Because it doesn't look
Yep.
like.
Yes,
You got it.
Okay,
it's on.
thank you. So, I have had a lot of calls on this item because people that live in these areas that are going to be changed and are going to be affected by it. And so, I didn't see anything going back to rural. It's all going into development of higher density, and that worries a lot of people in that area, especially with the limited amount of sewer and all that, because you're gonna have more population, more building. It's just, that's their worry and their concern. So can you help me there?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Commissioner. I think the underlying piece of this whole process is that the residents that are there today, this does not necessarily affect them at all. And so, the ability for them to utilize their property in a different manner in the future is what that possibly affects. So let's say that a person wants to sell their property in the future. This allows that new property owner to be able to provide conforming use on that property. Currently, right now, if we left them as they are, any future sale of the property would require that non-conforming use, it just perpetuates an issue that we've got in other locations with non-conforming uses within our master plan. And so this is an ability for us to clean up some of those things because of circumstances associated with the update to the master plan, the overall Truckee Meadows regional plan. I don't know if that answers your question, but it doesn't affect the character of the properties today. I think the term character management area is sometimes misconstrued with our community. It's a hard thing for people to understand that aren't in the planning world. And I think, hopefully with our own master plan update, we can help clarify that for our community members as we do the process for our North Valley's area plan update through that process. I think that will help take some of the concerns from our community out of it. I realize that, these parcels are in areas that have, City of Reno has surrounded them. They are remnant parcels that should have probably at one time been annexed into the City of Reno. That's my personal opinion, because it causes us these issues as we move forward. And so we've got this, kind of all these overlays of different processes and policies that need to be followed, and staff is simply coming forward and saying we can get rid of some of that to make it easier for our community and our staff moving forward.
I know what you're saying, but like I say, there are people that probably need a little more explanation than that. But you've done a good job.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Herman. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Solero, the parcels that we're talking about in our master plan and in the regional plan, what are they listed as? I can't, I have a black and white version.
Yeah, not a problem.
Sorry. I
Dan?
have this all on the presentation.
Okay.
Dan Claude for the record.
All
I
right,
was
well,
up
just,
to Claude.
and my question is, what are the parcels, in what tier are the parcels?
The regional tier or the current zoning of it?
The regional tier.
So these parcels which are affected are all the parcels that are outlined in the light blue line on this slide.
Which is tier 3,
No, they're mostly tier 2.
tier 2, okay.
So these are areas that have the potential of development up to 30 dwelling units per acre under the regional tier plan.
Okay. And the surrounding areas, the adjacent joining areas to these parcels are in the city of Reno?
Generally speaking, yes, and
And
this is,
what tier are those in?
oh. Generally speaking, Tier 2, Tier 1, and then in the areas that are within the unincorporated county outside of the Truckee Meadows service area, Tier 3,
Yeah, no,
sorry,
no, no,
rural
no,
area.
No, the question, let me repeat the
Yeah.
question. The parcels that are in the city of Reno, that are adjacent, that are contiguous to this,
They are Tier 1 and Tier 2.
Tier 1 and Tier 2, okay. So technically, if they annex themselves into the city, Mr. Solero, they could ask for a higher tier, to Tier 1. Okay? And Mr. Solero, I have another question for you. With respect to sewer, let's assume that when these parcels go to be developed, what if they can't, if no one can serve them with ERUs? And those are equivalent residential units, not for you, Mr. Solero, but what happens if they can't get sewer capacity?
Yeah, if they can't have sewer capacity, then they can't be,
They can't be developed.
they can't be developed.
That's all I wanted to put on the record. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Hill or Commissioner Jung, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay. See no questions from.
Me either.
From the other commissioners. Madam Clerk, we have public comment, so will you call public comment, please?
We do. First up, we have Guillermina Reddy, followed by Grace Blaylock.
Welcome, Ms. Reddy.
Good morning, everybody.
Ms. Reddy, can you pull the mic down so we can
Yeah.
hear you? Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Guillermina Ridi, and we get affected by these changes. We live in the community, contrary to the person who says that we are not going to be affected. We are going to be very affected. I wanted to give you a little bit of history of what happened in this community. This community is not like the rest of Reno or Sun Valley or wherever. This community was created, and at the time with many African American families and people were not able to buy land, this community, this land belonged to a guy who had a good heart and decided to segregate the parcels and sell it to only African American families. So they were able to buy it really relatively inexpensive and build their houses there. And in that time, there was like only exclusively African American families. Now there's still a lot of African American families living there right now. And let me, so this is not like, this is definitely gonna significantly affect our quality of life. First of all, the sewage is not made for any industrial or grand scale. And also, if he mentioned that if he changes from right now it's middle density, suburban, changes to commercial or whatever, we have the roads that were not made for that purpose. The second, the sewage. The third is, yes, definitely we had a neighbor who already started to try to set up the business there and created a lot of trouble for us because he came in and out in the streets, causing a lot of pollution and noise and everything. So, like I said, it's affecting all of us and our quality of life. It will affect us in the property taxes. It will affect us in this area. Like I said, it was not like the rest of the Reno or the other segments of Reno. This was created specifically for the benefit of African American people, and we have a diverse population, like you're going to see me, Helen, and Grace. Helen is actually the granddaughter of one of the first beneficiaries who bought parcels. His mother still lives there. Her mother still lives there, and many African American people live there. So
Thank you, ma'am.
please.
Next
you,
up,
ma'am.
we have Grace Blaylock.
All right, thank you. Ms. Reddy.
Good morning.
Welcome, Ms. Blaylock.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to tell you, I am a lung cancer patient, and my voice may fade as I speak. So I appreciate your indulgence. I bought my property at Grandview Terrace on April 21st, 1997. We have a quiet neighborhood, or we had, until they started building around us all the warehouses. We have to put up for several months with the noise from building constructions that took forever to build Amazon and all the warehouses that are on the other side. We have a community with only one entrance to. 2 years ago, we had a wildfire behind us, and we only had one way to get out. And unfortunately, it was the exit. The exit is right by Virginia Street, and the fire was right across from us. We do not want our community to be made a commercial or industrial area. This is a residential area. Like Guillermina said, many families have been there for decades. We have very old people that have always lived there. We pay $55 a month for water. And if this becomes part of Reno, Reno pays like $150 per water. Most of us cannot afford that. I was forced to retire early and go on disability because of my health issues. And I have a very small Social Security pension right now. We cannot afford our community to become an industrial or commercial area that will bring our prices down, taxes, water, and everything else. We will all be homeless. So I beg you not to approve this project. We need to become rural. We need to stay as we are. We cannot change. And that's all I have to say. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you,
Next
Ms.
up, we
Blaylock.
have Jack Preen, followed by Alan Price.
Good morning. First, they say we will not be affected. We know better than that because they've been trying to get us out of that area for years. My wife and her husband built that house in 1956. I've been here since 1975, which is before most of you people were even born. I said most of you. You're exempt. And like they're talking about all the warehouses going in around us, it's ridiculous. And as of a year ago, there's over 400 empty warehouses in Washoe County. We don't need any more empty warehouses. And all you're going to do if the Reno takes us over, they've been, like I said, they wanted us out of there for years. They'll get us out of there. And then you're going to have more of a homeless problem and more of a criminal element than you have today. It's, I don't know, it just kind of upsets everybody out in that area. So, and a lot of them properties out there are on homesteads, so I don't know what I can do about that, but. That's all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Prin.
Alan Price, followed by Helen Townsell. Alan Price? Helen, you're after Alan, please. Okay, we'll take Helen first and then Alan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Helen Townsell, and I've been listening to what these gentlemen are talking about and what's going on up there. Number one, we got these pink notices. It's almost like an eviction notice, is what people are thinking. My mother's 86 years old. She's been in Black Springs since 1952. And for her to get this letter, she called me last night. That's why I'm here today. She called me last night in tears, crying, thinking she's going to be put out of her house because someone wants to come in and redo some things. Back in the day, we had nowhere else to go. That's where everybody sent us. I got a letter right here from you guys back in 2011 saying that you were sorry for how you treated the residents out there back in the day. Back then, Bonnie Weber was on the board. And now you want to go in here and allow people to come in and change parcels. We're in the process between our story and the Black Wall Street in making some of those buildings out there historical. We're meeting on January 20th for that. All this is in process right now. The fire department out there, the building still stands that we built because the county commissioners would not build it and our homes were burning down back in the 50s. I grew up in Black Springs. They call it Grandview Terrace now. It'll always be Black Springs to me. And I don't need my mom calling me in the middle of the night crying that she's going to be put out of her house because some developers want to come in and add property or do whatever they're trying to do with the parcels. But like I said, if they say it's not affected, then why do we get these notices? Why is my mom getting this notice and they're saying that this is going to affect her property? And that's what I'm here for. This property's been there a long time. I said, but like Grace said, back in the days, that's where you sent us to buy property. J.E. Sweat. He was the only color he saw was green. And he sold property to parcels. He divided them up, 1/3 acres. And he sold to the blacks out there. They built their community out there. No one should be allowed to come in and turn that around for the betterment of nothing, because we're the ones that's made that place what it is. No one from the city or anyone did it. We did it. And we don't want that new thing they're talking about doing out there. And especially if it comes to having to be evicted from your property or someone come in and tell you what you can do with your property. All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Alan Price?
Mr. Price?
Well, pretty much I just kind of reiterate what the ladies just said. So I've been out there since '79, and I just retired here 2 months ago, turned 70. And when I got this notice, it was kind of nerve-wracking thinking that, well, as she said, that somebody might come in and change your property. Because at this age, where would I be going if things changed? Yeah, I would pretty much like to keep it the way it is. I mean, I know there is, improvements and changes, but at the moment, quite frankly, I would be kind of distraught a little bit if you guys made these changes. So pretty much that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks for inviting me and listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Appreciate it.
I have nobody else signed in.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Based upon the public comment, I just want to, I understand your frustrations and your concerns, and they're valid and real. I would like to assure you, and Dave, Mr. Sawyer, can I have you come to the podium, please? Because I'm going to have you confirm some of my statements here. One, any changes made to the character management area will not make this any easier for annexation into the city of Reno. Is that correct? Because on the bottom here, it says, will not make it easier to be annexed into the city of Reno.
This does not change the annexation laws.
Okay. And so the only way an annexation could occur is if a property owner petitioned to be annexed into the city, correct?
There are potentially other ways to do that, but in this specific instance, I think the fears from the community that we're hearing is that someone will come in and do this for them. They would have to be a willing party in whatever land transaction occurs, as I understand it.
Correct. So this is merely guidelines and policy changes allowing certain things for the property owner, but it is not necessarily specifically changing their current status of their properties or their rights.
That is correct.
Okay. And so going forward, it would allow, are their properties, everyone that is currently occupied with a residence and that they live in, there will be no evictions, there will be no changes that will create any kind of changes or struggles to any of the properties around them. They won't affect their water rates or any. What this would do is just give them the allowance, but to change if they so chose, but it would not force them to do that, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And as would their current rights of their properties be grandfathered to them until a sale occurred?
So the rights that they currently have as far as a single-family residential community stay, even with the changes that we're talking about. These are various policies and other things that are overlaying on top of this property. So this basically allows these properties to become in conformance with Washoe County's plan.
And I understand when you and I can speak about conformance and we can talk in that fashion, I want to try to convey in a way so that individuals are a little bit more informed in regards to the process, because sometimes we speak in a format that's a little too complicated, because when you talk about conformance and area plans, I want to reassure our community. Mr. Shalane, you're raising your hand. Do you want to come up and jump in here? Okay, I will allow that.
I believe I have a slide that, if I could get the slideshow.
Can we
back
get the
up.
slide? Ryan, can you get the presentation? Okay. 1 second here.
And Dan Colon, for the record, Washoe County Planning. I
There you go.
understand that this is an incredibly complicated thing to discuss. So at the end of the day, what we're talking about is a character management area. It fits within our regulatory system. At the very top, we have the state level, which then underneath that, we have the regional level, which all master plans are required to conform to, as in agree with. Within the master plan, we have what are character management areas, which then dictate what regulatory zones are allowed within an already legally conforming with the regional plan that are allowed. Then the regulatory zones are what set the specific use and subdivision regulations.
Correct.
What we're doing at this point is just removing the character management areas and all of the areas that are currently non-conforming because the original overlay was created in the absence of creating a different overlay.
Okay.
So this was just created in the past because we had 4 other character management areas, and those
And
character management areas.
I absolutely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I want to do is reassure the constituents that there are changes that we are making are merely policy changes, but nothing impactful or detrimental to their current lifestyle, nor their going forward lifestyle. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I totally understand that. So
Okay,
there will
can
be
we put
no
that in
land use
term?
changes.
Can we put that in terms so that we can relate that, please?
So there will be no land use changes. All of the existing regulatory zones, which set the uses and the entitlements, will not change. The
Okay.
only thing that changes is whether or not the regulatory zones are conforming or not.
Thank you. That is what I was trying to get to. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mr. Solero. Vice Chairman.
I ask a question?
Yes, Commissioner Jim.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Which agency is responsible for sending out the notice that these homeowners receive?
So Washoe County sent those notices out per the requirements of noticing under state law.
Okay, so can we either handle this at an operations level or maybe bring it back up to this board? Can we maybe change the format of what those look like, what color they are, what number they say to call, maybe putting them, I know you have to put the legal terms, but maybe a FAQ on them, because this sounds like people have experienced a lot of alarming information from what we sent to them. So that needs to be workshopped and studied and done in a way that is more user-friendly rather than just the letter of the law in terms of how they are received as a piece of communication. Because, you know, I feel the same way as one of the public commenters. I'm pretty certain if my parents received something in the mail on pink card or whatever they allege with some misunderstanding, especially considering the history of this community, which is very well documented. So I think that there's a change right there that we can make going forward that is much more user-friendly rather than government ease, the language that we use in government. So this can be headed off in the past and be even maybe workshopped out at a community meeting if there's that much concern about what seems like something that was changed because we took out the transit corridor part of the overlay. And we are just trying to make ourselves come up into law, and maybe that's part of what goes out on a notice. So it sounds like the issue was the confusion over how we communicate. So I think that needs to be changed as we move forward so that citizens who pay taxes and live in an area and definitely understand the culture and the discrimination faced in an area should have just as much reassurance as anybody else, and also more sensitivity in terms of what we are communicating, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I would absolutely agree with you, Commissioner Jung, and I know Commissioner Jung has mentioned this a number of times that our level of communication while noticing is not as functionally easy to read. It's very complex. It's very, we do it on the ballots, and when we do ballot questions to give two formats, more of a synopsis than just the legalese, and we need to do a better job at that because we hear that around the county. So I would agree with Commissioner Jung in that sense. So thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman, I have you signed in next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Solero, explain the noticing process. Let's start with that. What's the noticing process?
I think I'd like Dan to come up and talk through kind of the noticing on these types of things, kind of what we do and what that looks like, if it's all right with you.
Dan Colon, Washoe County Planning for the record. So we provide noticing. We provide a courtesy noticing at the very beginning of this process to provide people with a heads up and a notice of when all of the neighborhood meetings are. We had 3 neighborhood meetings in terms of this, 2 virtual, 1 in person in order to provide this. Then we provide additional noticing at the Planning Commission. And then again, before this meeting here with the Board of County Commissioners. The notice is provided in accordance with state law, which is at this point for a master plan amendment, 750-foot notice. And it has, well, at this point, my phone number and email address have been provided to everybody and get back to people as I get information in order to explain this. That said, I understand where you're coming from. I have had comment come back to me and say that this is Chinese. What does it mean? Literally, that was my phone call. So the explanation of something as complicated as this is obviously difficult to communicate in writing as opposed to having those public outreach meetings that we had at the beginning. So.
Okay, so next question is, and this is probably for you, Mr. Solero, or perhaps you, Mr. Edwards. Will anyone be evicted by the county?
No.
Okay. Yeah. And again, Mr. Edwards, this is probably for you. Will these change or affect their taxes in any way, shape, or form?
I don't know how to answer that question, Mr. Vice Chair. I
Well,
don't think it will. It's not something that's changing the
On their part of
uses
the
on their
property.
property or
Correct.
anything like that. If somebody filed an application to develop it and it changed the value of the property, then the assessor
right.
would probably apply a different, analysis to it. But
Okay.
no, this is not designed to change any property tax.
This won't change the analysis on those properties that are existing as residential.
Not as I understand it.
Okay. All right. So, and I know that you guys may not believe this, but I'm very familiar with this area. I lived there. I had to rent a house in 1982 because I couldn't afford to rent a house anyplace else. My wife and I lived there until 1987 when we bought a house in Spanish Springs. And by the way, we tried to buy the house that we were living in, but we could not afford it. And so we ended up moving to Spanish Springs, which was a more affordable community at the time. And we have lived in that same house in Spanish Springs since 1987. You have no idea what growth really looks like until you've lived in Spanish Springs. That whole valley, the nature of that entire valley has completely changed. To be honest with you, the industrial is some of the least offensive to most of us because it's not homes. It's not this constant flow of residential traffic. Industrial is far less invasive. And what it has done in our valley, it has provided a source of jobs and revenues in the valley where we've got different things going on other than just residential, other than just rooftop after rooftop after rooftop after rooftop. And by the way, we have lots of that. I completely understand, and I completely understand the fears, although I would like, Mr. Solero, what was the vote of the Planning Commission? Do we know? Or Dan, do we know what was the vote? It passed unanimously?
Yeah, I'm just looking in the.
Okay, so it went to the Planning Commission, it passed. Does it goes to us, does it have to go to regional planning before it goes to the Regional Governing Board?
Yes, it does.
So it goes to regional planning for conformance review of the regional plan, and then if it's found in conformance with the regional plan, then it goes to ratification to the Regional Governing Board. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Commissioner Herman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I tend to agree with Commissioner Chung, and it seems like maybe the folks weren't really aware that they were being noticed about what they're fearing. But I know that there's no guarantee taxes won't go up. I mean, I just, when you change anything on a piece of property, taxes usually go up, they don't go down. They are already doing a bunch of grading out there, and I'm sure that they've been starting to think about doing some paving and improving, and those costs sometimes develop into more expenses. I understand their predicament, and I don't know, I think maybe they should get a second chance on the meetings and see if we can't make them feel a little bit more at ease with this. They've lived there a very, very long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Herman. Mr. Edwards, I have you signed in.
Yeah, I have a question for either Mr. Solero or Mr. Kalan, and this is for purposes of developing your record here before you make a decision on this today. And I'm not sure if you actually have this at your fingertips, and if you don't, you know, that's fine. But what I'm wondering is how many notices were sent out in this situation?
You bear with me a moment, I will be able to pull up the exact number for you. For which meeting?
For this meeting.
I just have the map.
And Mr. Vice Chair, that's a valid point too, but I figured we'd start with this particular meeting, since that's where the speakers came to today to talk to. But your point is valid too, you know, overall, how many notices have been sent out?
By record of the mailing list for this meeting, 376 notices went out.
Thank you. I think the vice chair had a question about the other meetings as well. And while Mr. Kalon's looking at that, I think that's important for your record here today because you're dealing with input, during the public hearing and from speakers who came down here today who made points and raised concerns about the notices they received. And I think it's important for you as a board to have at your fingertips the number of notices that went out in total on this particular situation.
For the Planning Commission, 540, as we dropped Horizon Hills from the affected area between Planning Commission and this meeting at the behest of Planning Commission, as they opted for option 2 to remove Horizon Hills from the original planned affected area.
Thank you. So between that meeting and this meeting, over 800?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. I see no further questions from any of the commissioners in regards to this discussion. We've taken public comment on this. At this time, I am going to look for a motion to move forward with recommendations from staff or not. Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I think that this has gone through the public process, and I think the Planning Commission, I think that they did a good job vetting it. I can't tell you how many times we have watched the Planning Commission turn things down that didn't really connect. So I would move that the Board of County Commissioners can, let's see, how do I want to phrase this? I don't like the way that this motion is styled, but I'll use it anyways. I would move that the Board of County Commissioners conduct a public hearing and adopt the resolution for Master Plan Amendment Case Number WMPA 21-005, the North Valley's Character Management Area, to adopt amendments to the Washoe County Master Plan and the North Valley's Area Plan Appendix A Character Management Plan Map to remove the North Valley's Rural Character Management Area, or RCMA, from 251 of the 421 affected parcels as listed in Attachment A and the noticing map, in order to correct the non-conforming regulatory zones exempting the parcels within the Horizon Hills subdivision. Of the 251 parcels which are the subject of this request, 98 parcels were formerly in the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan, and 153 parcels in the vicinity are almost completely surrounded by the city of Reno.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second the motion. Seeing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Please affirm your votes on your screens.
I have nothing. There we go.
I have a motion carries, 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the opposition, and so motion carries. All right, thank you for all those who joined and shared with us today. Hopefully, we can move on with that. All right, we are on, Mr. Manager, I'd like to go at this time, I'd like to go back to our proclamation, which is 5A1.
All right. Proclamation 5A1 is a proclamation to proclaim November 11th, 2021 as Veterans Day. And today in chambers, we have our current and past veterans. And I believe we have a video to start with, Mr. Chair, before you get started.
Marvelous. Let's run that, please.
Serving our nation, serving our country, our state as a warrant officer is one of the greatest honors that I will have ever experienced. Providing service to those alongside of us in the community every day, those that we'll never meet, is a great opportunity to not only learn skill sets, but also to provide a better leadership skill in moving forward in life. I want to thank those that have served in the past, those presently serving, and those to serve in the future. Your service to our country, to our state, and to the entire nation is historic. My ultimate legacy in this would be providing the service to our country as a service member, as an Army soldier.
That is amazing. You know, this is for those families that have service members. It is truly an honor and a calling for individuals to act not only in the military branch, but also to just serve our country as a whole. And the individuals that make that sacrifice day in and day out need more than just recognition on one day. We should support our military every day, in my opinion. Coming from a family that had, my great uncle served in World War II and was killed in Normandy, and my grandfather served in the Korean War. I truly know the sacrifices these families make to continue to provide for us a safe, secure ability to raise our families, conduct our business, and have the ability to have a democratic society. So it gives me great honor to be joined here with Mr. Eric Rilwick, who is a trusted and very helpful and continued servant within the county, and shows in his day-to-day work. So it's my honor to read this proclamation for you today. Whereas Veterans Day was once known as Armistice Day to remind Americans of the tragedies of war. That was proclaimed by President Woodrow Wilson in 1919. And whereas Veterans Day is a national holiday, national and state holiday that serves as an opportunity to honor the courageous men and women who have honorably served in the armed forces of the United States. And whereas we owe a great debt to those who have served in the defense of this nation. And whereas Washoe County is home to over 30,000 veterans. And whereas Washoe County will always honor, support the courage and selfless sacrifice of our military members and their family. And whereas with respect for and in recognition of their contributions that our service members have made in the cause of peace and freedom around the world. Now therefore, the Washoe County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim November 11th, 2021 as Veterans Day, dated the 9th day of November, 2021, signed by myself, Bob Lucy. And I'd like all the veterans joining us here today, please stand, as we would like to recognize you for your service and continued dedication, not only to our community, but also to the county. So thank you for your service. Now you get to talk a little bit.
Eric Woolrich for the record. Just wanted to say thank you very much. I'm happy to have our fellow veterans that work here in the county and in the community visiting with us today. Thank you for the opportunities that the military has provided to me to get to this point and now to serve the community further here at the county. It's a great honor. It's been one of the biggest part of my life, serving in the military, and it will be memories that will never be forgotten.
Thank you. Anybody like to make a comment? No? All right.
Mr. Chairman, before they leave, may I say something? I want to thank you for the freedoms that we enjoy. We can hold a public meeting because of what veterans have given and what current military continues to give to this day. My own family, Mr. Chairman, I have a great uncle who was a doughboy in World War I. My father and my uncle both served in World War II. My uncle was a B-25 pilot. My father was a bombardier. My aunt served in Korea as a wave. I have my wife's brothers all served in the military, one serving 3 tours in Iraq, and actually 2 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. So I'm beyond thankful for what you have given us. Thank you. Thank you,
Mr. Vice
Mr.
Chair, I'd like if we could take a quick recess and have an opportunity for a picture with everybody. So if I can ask everybody, can we come down here? Joining us today. All right. So with that, that takes us to item 12. Mr. Manager.
Item 12 is a presentation by Washoe County COVID-19 Response Incident Commander Dave Solaro on COVID-19 Delta variant data and information on Washoe County, in Washoe County, to include an update on impacts, vaccination status, state directives in place, and general information for the community. Mr. Solaro.
Welcome, Mr. Solaro.
Good morning. For the record, Dave Solaro, Assistant County Manager. An item that I am prepared for today is the update for you all related to COVID-19 and our community update for November 9th, 2021. As you'll recall, I was here in September, did not make an appearance in October, and here I am in November to give you an update on the current numbers and of where our vaccination status is, remind the community the update on the current state of Nevada directives, and then provide some tips for lessening the risk of COVID. So as you'll recall, in September, we were actually nearing pretty much the height of our latest surge. And so the good news I have today for you all is that our numbers are they have shown some great improvement since September. However, they have just started to level off at a level that is certainly quite a bit higher than they were earlier this summer. So we are still, as of yesterday, tracking over 7,000 active cases within our community. The deaths have risen from 782 in September to now over 900 at 919. During the month of October, actually, the risk meter went down into the high range, and it has since jumped back up into the very high range as well. Our test positivity is down less than half of what it was before. So we were at 20.1 in September. Now we're at 9.3. We're actually bouncing right around that 10% range as we move forward. I think some good news is our vaccination rates continue to increase. Slowly but surely, we are getting more people vaccinated in our community. So we are currently sitting at about 65.5% of our 12-plus population fully vaccinated. I think those numbers are, it'll be interesting to see what the state does with their dashboard, whether now that we've got 5 through 11 age population, whether we start tracking those numbers as well against our total population, but certainly making some steady increase. Some other things, we continue to have our sewer study regionally with our partnership with the University of Nevada, Reno, and a contract through the city of Sparks. We are showing decreasing concentrations within our sewer stream. So that's good news. We're using that as a little bit of a predictor. So the Hospital Association information from September really started to show that we have this issue with staffing in our community. Back in September, we had some patients and some concern with the number of COVID patients in the hospital. As we moved into October, and even the information that I received this morning for November, we are still concerned about staffing in our region. But the bigger piece here isn't necessarily that it's COVID-related impacts to our hospitals as much as it's just standard hospital, things going on in our community, whether that's flu or other uses within our hospital that has those kind of at that warning level, and that's really the hospital occupancy rates and the ICU occupancy rates for all hazards. Staffing continues to be an issue for our local hospitals. That is not just locally here in Reno. That is really across the state. It's across the nation where staffing becomes an issue. So that lowers our number of staff beds. The hospitals have plans in place to deal with that with traveling nurses and other things as this, as we kind of normalize with COVID in our community. So the Hospital Association is not super concerned at this point related to COVID specifically within our hospital. So I think that's some positive news. Again, this is information provided from the state dashboard where in September we were at 203 confirmed or suspected hospitalizations. We're down to 132. That number's been bouncing right around 100 to 130 pretty consistently over the last few weeks. Again, vaccinations in our community. There are a whole host of locations where our community can get vaccinated. Here's just a partial list. Every website that we've got associated with COVID-19 in Washoe County, you can get to the information on how to get yourself an appointment. One of the things that we have noticed is we're running about 1,300 new doses, new first doses a week here in the community. And so again, this has slowed down quite a bit, but we're approaching that 65.5% of fully vaccinated within our community, 12 plus. Seeing a big increase in the number of doses going out for boosters. So that was something that was approved between September and now by the FDA and the CDC. So that would be a booster dose of Pfizer, Moderna, or the Janssen vaccine. And so we continue to work through that within our community. But again, 72.2% of our population, 12 plus, that is initiated vaccination, and then that 65.5% of those fully vaccinated, which would be the 2 doses, 2 weeks after the second dose, or 2 weeks after the 1-dose Janssen vaccine. So I think our community is doing really well on the vaccination front. Still encourage people that have not been vaccinated to give it some thought, do your research, and make an appointment. Back to where we're at with masks. I know that is a question that you are all asked on a regular basis. Again, Washoe County has no say in the masking requirement other than If we do our part, our numbers will go down, and then we can get to the point where we're out of that vaccination, or the requirement for masking. But that is a governor directive based on CDC transmission levels within our community. We are still currently in the elevated section there. So until we get below 50, 50 cases per 100,000 on a regular basis, we're going to still continue to have masking in place in our indoor locations or crowded outside locations. Once we get below that, again, it's 2 consecutive weeks before the governor's office will release Washoe County to be able to go non-masks. So based on our current numbers, that might take us a while to get there. Even Clark County is down below the 10%, and they are still not out of that the masking requirement as well. So I think we just need to continue to do our part, continue to vaccinate for those that want to get vaccinated, and do our part by wearing our masks. So again, some tips for our community. Inform yourself, get vaccinated, wear your masks indoors and where required outside. Again, the employees in the facilities are they're tired of having to remind people to wear masks. So just they're just doing their job. So when you go into a facility, masks are required. So please wear your mask. Use the COVID risk meter to help inform yourself on how you conduct yourself in the community. I think most importantly is to stay home if you are ill. That is one of the things that we see consistently. People are still wondering, it's like, oh, well, I've got this little cold, I'm still going to go to work. I have been encouraging our employees, if you're feeling ill at all, stay home. I mean, we've got plenty of sick leave and other things. I think a lot of our community members, businesses as well, would rather have their employees home, safe, not infecting anybody in the community. So stay home when you're ill. Hygiene's still important, and then it's always a good idea to continue to keep safe distance. So again, the risk meter in the very high. Here's some tips for that. And with that, I'm here for any questions that the commission may have.
Okay. Any questions from any of the staff? I mean, for commissioners. Commissioner Jung or Commissioner Hill, do you have anything?
I have a question.
Commissioner Jung, I'll go with you first.
Thank you. Sorry, Commissioner Hill. My big question, well, a couple things. My first question is, Mr. Solaro, is there a reason why this community doesn't receive outbreak information if they can be localized and told about it? I know in other states, they can do it by census tract, zip code, et cetera. Is there a reason why this county has decided to forego that?
I don't think there was a reason we have decided to forego that. Commissioner Jung, as you'll recall, in this latest surge, our contract tracers were focusing really on the school-age children to help the school district keep schools open. And so while they're contract tracing and going through that disease investigation, the data we had was a little bit skewed because it was starting to go towards sporting events and things where the children were frequenting. And so, there really wasn't a clear pattern on specific business types or anything along those lines that we could pinpoint to help our community understand that one type of activity was more risky than another. And so I think we as a community decided that our regional information team would simply provide the information out to the community and hope that each individual member would make a choice of their own on whether the activity that they wanted to plan, that they felt that the risk could be minimized for themselves. It's a little hard to pinpoint, like I say, some of those areas just because of the way the disease investigation was going on and the resources that we had available at the time.
Okay, I get that. I figured people way smarter than me with way more data could answer that, but I've had that come up a couple times in conversations, so just be aware of that. The other thing I wanted to bring to this commission's attention, we are really trying to revamp and revitalize all of our events and activities that happen here locally by making sure that locals have a stake in all that we do and a place at a seat at all of our different events. And I'm going to tell you some information, Commission and Mr. Manager and the public, that I've received about the last couple weeks, really, but really consolidated really over this last weekend. And it's not good news for us engaging our locals. And that is, I've talked to people all over this valley, of different demographics, and their favorite place to go when they go out of town is the Bay Area. That's where they're taking their money to go to shows, to go to eat fine dining. And the number one reason why they tell me, because that's where they feel the safest, because people comply with the mask and people comply. It's very strict in the Bay Area to eat indoors, outdoors as well. Everybody has to have a vaccination card or proof of negative transmission. And that's where people are going. And I really was a little bit perplexed, but then when I really sat to think about it, it's actually counter what we're trying to create here locally. So I think we all need to take a pause of that and figure out a way in each of our own behaviors, as well as what we are communicating to our public, that we are following the best practices, and people should feel safe to eat here and feel comfortable. And I'm talking about our locals. I don't know anything about people coming into town. And the other thing I really thought about, when the weather's decent, that's really not a hard drive, 80 all the way to go into the Bay Area. And I just don't want to hear that we're losing that type of recreational money into our coffers, which we live and die on, and which really isn't the way I want to promote a quality of life for my constituents. So to piggyback on this COVID issue, we are now, again, with our risk meter that I use every week, comes out on Tuesdays. Thank you, Mr. District Health Officer, who taught me this. We are back up and very high. So we don't have good news. And Mr. Solaro, I know you look at it from a very different vantage point, but I am concerned about how much we are losing in terms of just basic economic principles of people fleeing from here that are locals because they don't feel comfortable. They've told me they've been downtown. Listen, I don't go eat anywhere indoor, any place public, but they've told me they've walked by downtown Reno and see all the places open, the windows open, not a soul inside. So whatever we can do to make sure that we are compliant, change this meter and get our vaccinations up, the better we're all going to be off as an outcome of people feeling safe here and being able to carry on with their quality of life. And I just want to put it in your back pocket, Mr. Solaro. If the case numbers start to go down and we get more into what we've all been dreaming about, which is just small flare-ups, maybe the group who is doing the management might want to look at that's a way to notify the public when you get to a level that the data is much more manageable. And I also want to say, Mr. Solaro, I think between you, the chair, and the district health officer during this last year and a half have probably had the most difficult job in all of Washoe County, because you not only have to be on top of all these moving targets and changing data, but you have to be the deliverer of information that there's a contingency that don't want to hear it. So I don't want this to look in any way critical, just a helpful hint and just to share an experience. But I think between the three of you, you are my three county members who are wearing capes for the last year and a half, because you have been on top of this and delivering information that is not what people wanted to hear, but was crucial for us to move forward and all on the same playing field. So I thank you, Mr. Solaro. I thank our chairman. And of course, I would thank our district health officer, because he's had to take probably the most public abuse. Not that you haven't, and certainly not that the chair hasn't, and this whole board of commission. But I want to let you know, I think you're doing a really great job, and I am very attentive on this meter. I'm glad we have the meter. It helps me plan my week. And if you look at their next week's prediction, is also still to be high, but expecting to go down. So we may be going in the right area. And just to put on the record, I've been making this in correspondence. I will be at no public meeting anywhere that's indoors until we're back into the moderate transmission rate. And just for the edification of a new listener, I have coffee every morning with my 85-year-old parents, and I will not be blamed for killing them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner John. Commissioner Hill, I have you signed in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was wondering, Mr. Salerno, could you confirm whether booster shots are open to all of the general public at this point?
Commissioner, for the record, Dave Solero, I will need to pull a web page up. Booster shots are still being recommended for only certain parts of our community at this time. I do know that the Pfizer has provided some information to the FDA related to boosters for anyone over the age of 18, and that is going to be continuing through the process probably over the next 3 to 4 weeks. But currently at this time, we are still under the 65 years and older. We also have 18 years and older that work with high-risk populations or have underlying health conditions, and those are the ones that are currently recommended for the boosters. So the general public for boosters, it is going through the process through the FDA at this time.
Okay, thank you for confirming that. I also, and this may be for the chairman as well to address, but I've got a lot of parents who have the children that are between the ages of, I think it's 5 and 11 or 5 and 10, who can get COVID vaccines now, and they're worried about availability in the community. They're having a tough time getting appointments, and I was just curious where that's at and any support that this commission can bring to that, because I think that the forecast that Commissioner Jung brought up about the reduction in cases is because our kids are going to start to get vaccinated, and they're part of the spread issue that we're seeing. So I was just curious where, if there was any update on that. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner, we are having another 5 to 11-year-old clinic this weekend, Saturday, here at the Health District. I do know that there are some pediatricians in town as well that are having appointments available, and those are all going filled. So I do understand, and the Health District understands, they've been working with the state on making sure that we get those pediatric doses in our community so that we can have the clinics necessary. I believe Renown is also planning future pediatric clinics.
Thank you. Those are all my questions. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Jung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Hill made me think of something else. And that is, what is the barrier at this point that we are not providing those flu shot or the COVID vaccinations for the younger kids Saturdays and Sundays? I get the weekends so they don't miss school, but is there a barrier for us to be opening on Sundays as well as the holiday break at the end of November? Because, we don't want to be pulling kids out of school, but we do know that in 20 minutes, 300 shots were gone. So every call I get from parents is, when in the heck can I get the shot and where? So I'm thinking we need to accelerate that. If there's the appetite for it, let's get them done and over with, rather than just doing a Saturday with that. And it might be, listen again, might be much smarter people with much more data than me organizing this, but please put that out there in terms of accelerating it, because there is such a great demand for this. And it also makes me recognize and realize too that what Mr. Solaro said about us being so focused since COVID to make sure that K through 12 was open for Washoe County School District, using our employees, by the way, to do the contact tracing, because we had the recognition, and this is why my parents are calling me like crazy. They can't afford to have their kids miss any other school. This is an infrastructure that they depend on so they can go to work. So at least K through 6th grade, that is a basic infrastructure that allows the parents to get out of the house and know their kids are safe while they can perform their economic duties to take care of their families. So I would really push opening up more slots if and when that is available. I know that's based on dose availability, et cetera, but I hope that people are listening that are in charge of this, that hear my urgency, and I'm sure they saw that as well. But I don't believe Sunday is sacred for every employee that we work with. Let's get people to work on Sunday if that's what will accelerate this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. To address before Mr. Solaro maybe might want to respond, but I know the allocation need for the pediatric vaccine is limited, and we are trying to get those allocations as quickly as possible for any of those individuals wishing to have that vaccine. Mr. Solaro and I can meet and have with the manager to discuss potential of staffing for either after schools and I know there has been discussions about, potential pod vaccines at the schools as well to allow for that. There are some legal issues with that we're working through, but there are discussions about potentially bringing pods to schools for parents, if that's something that they wish to do. So that discussion is happening, to reassure you, and then hopefully we'll get larger amounts of allocation for the pediatric vaccine as soon as we can. We're kind of in the same place we were last February when we first started getting the vaccine it's just an allocation issue. Mr. Solero, though, I want to go back into some of my concerns, and Commissioner Jung brings up a very unique point, and I'll share with you a brief case study, as I have 2 young children, as most of you know, a 7 and a 3-year-old. My 3-year-old goes to daycare, as my wife and I are both at work all the time, and my son goes to school. It's in 2nd grade. When this week in my daughter's daycare, a teacher, a fully vaccinated teacher, contracted COVID again. So there are cases. I want to remind everybody in regards to the vaccine will not prevent you from getting coronavirus. The vaccine will help you recover, will help you boost your immune system as long as the titers are strong enough to continue to move forward. However, it will not prevent you from getting coronavirus. But to Commissioner Jung's point in regards to infrastructure, our employees, from what my understanding and through certain policies that we are seeing around the country and especially through our school districts, is that individuals that once they're contracted, we are again quarantining those individuals, which are taking teachers out of the schools, teaching daycare individuals out of the schools, which are, if kids have to go home and they don't have the ability or they've been exposed, that means those parents are out of the workforce. Many of those individuals have to go home and provide, if they can't send them to daycare, there's not necessarily the ability for them to send them to school, and would have to call in and take PTO time, whether they are contracted or not, we're continuing to see the 7 to 14 day waiting period or a negative COVID test. My question to you, Mr. Solero, is with our testing, we are not the only ones conducting testing, correct?
That is correct.
Renown is conducting testing. The hospitals are conducting testing through their own labs. We're conducting testing. Where do we send the health district, I should say? Where does the health district send their current tests?
The tests go to the state public health lab.
State public health lab up at the University of Nevada, Reno still?
Yep.
Okay, and they're still running those PCR tests up there?
Correct.
Okay. Now, my other concerns is that, yes, the mask is a constant issue because it constantly, I very differently than some of my other commissioners, my colleagues, think, and this is, like I said, not in any sense of negativity. I believe that the masks, and have believed that the mask can be inhibitory towards individuals. I don't believe that people, I disagree with the mandate, and don't feel it adequately addresses the need of the community. However, what I would say is that I believe that the vaccine is important, and I think we need to continue to vaccinate individuals so that we can get to a status of herd immunity, because coronavirus, as we've always said from day one, is not going to go away. It's just how we're going to be able to confront and deal with it in a functional manner. I think we need to continue to do the best we can to educate people through data and science, not fear and devastation. I believe that if you choose to wear a mask, you should be allowed to wear a mask. Whether inside, at work, wherever you choose to do, you should be able to. And we make vaccines readily available, as you saw through your presentation. My frustration, though, is that with the transmission rate, we have to have 51 is what I believe your number said, which would take us below. My understanding, though, was all we had to do was get below 8% and stay at a level below 8% was the governor's requirement. CDC's is 5. We're at 132, which puts us at 9.3. So my math, if you're saying is correct, is not 8%, it's the 5% threshold.
Yeah, I believe the way the CDC is set up is we need to be below a transmission rate of 50 per 100,000 population. And I believe that actually gets you also through that, below that 5% positivity rate. I'll have to double check, and I can provide some information in my next update, and I can provide it to the commissioners as well, on exactly what that CDC threshold is. But the number we're actually looking for is that 50 per 100,000 population. That is their transmission threshold, to the point where then the governor will, we keep it there for 2 weeks, then we can have the mandate removed for the masks. We are currently sitting, just so everybody's aware, that number today is 211 per 100,000, according to our dashboard.
Okay. And there's a number of respiratory diseases that are currently, we are experiencing, not only flu season, but also we've seen in the pediatrics, RSV being a very popular transmissional upper respiratory virus that's being transmitted as well. Have there been any studies that we've seen thus far that have come out providing us any more detailed data or information about impacts of somebody that has contracted or been vaccinated with the COVID-19 that has contracted RSV or influenza that shows signs of sickness but has the vaccine titers on board? Does that have any impact to the testing and the PCR test?
I will have to get back to you with that. I'll have to go consult someone much smarter than I am.
Okay. Because, as we continue to test, and here's what my frustrations have been all along, is that people are so, now there, as Commissioner Jung pointed out, there are a lot of individuals that are still very concerned, and she gets the calls, I get the calls that people want the masks and they want to keep them on until they feel adequately safe. And they want to make sure their kids are adequately safe before they continue with their day-to-day lives. But I don't know if we're properly doing enough to provide them the data that gives them that pathway forward. Secondly, what I would say is that but with the masks, people are maybe contracting and getting sick and saying, I'm not going to test because I don't want to contribute to a positivity when I know I'm vaccinated, I know I'm probably going to recover. There's a common sense value to that where there's a different, I know we shouldn't say common sense, but there's a different thought process for certain individuals that say, even though I'm sick, I'm not going to go get tested because I don't want to contribute because I want to get the masks off. And so there's two different trains. We are providing them pathways to not get tested. And so what happens is that we find ourselves in this divergence of ideologies, so to speak, and it's not proving, we are getting vaccinated, which is great. 72% of initiation and 68% of fully is phenomenal. It has already beat my expectations of where I thought we would be. But I still see ourselves as challenged in regards to getting the masks off because we're kind of doing this and those individuals who choose not to be sick doesn't mean they're not getting people, they're just not getting tested. So that means the spread of the virus is going to continue on and it's going to cause, so I'm finding myself in this challenged position of how do we moderate the discussion so that we can get people to believe that it's safe and okay, and that yes, the vaccine is working and it is providing you some level of, but I'd like to know how that correlates with influenza and RSV right now. I'd like to know, we have 130 patients in hospital, right? Correct, with suspected or confirmed, 34 in ICU and 24 on ventilators. Is that correct? Is that the number? I thought it was somewhere in that direction.
Yeah.
Based upon your presentation.
Yeah, the presentation.
That's a couple days old.
Yeah, I'll go back to that. It was just from yesterday. So yeah, 132 suspected.
35 ICU, 20 vent.
Yeah.
As we move through that process, I want to make sure what we're doing, we're continuing to hold kids, our businesses, at a level of compliance for 132 people of suspected. But God knows how many outside of that number are, like I said, not getting tested. And it's causing us some consternation and not allowing our infrastructure needs, as Commissioner Jung pointed out, because there's state of California, however, the San Francisco Bay may be much stricter in their city, within their city limits in the Bay Area, and they are, in regards to inside dining and vaccine verifications and whatnot. They're statewide, though. They do not have the mask mandate that we do here at the state. So that's the conflict and the difference. And we still have those visitors coming in and out of the community. We had a large sporting tournament last weekend. We will continue to see those. So we have this influx. So I don't understand how we're going to continue to get away from this number unless we have some more qualified data in regards to what we're doing, because this is too simplistic in my sense to really quantify herd immunity, how its impacts on the other things are. And pediatric deaths, one of the things that we don't see, we're masking our children and continuing to send them to school with masks on. We haven't seen any pediatric deaths, to my understanding, in the recent months. The last number I was aware of, there was somewhere in 10 maybe?
Yeah.
Total for the entire pandemic.
Yeah, I don't have that number locally, but I can certainly get that.
Well, can you follow up with me with some of that information? I'd like to have that discussion with you.
Yeah,
So-
no, I appreciate that, Chair, and I think that's the thing we're all struggling with right now. We're into this pandemic to the point of, we still have our part of our community that is, really taking things very seriously, and they are concerned, and and then we have a whole other part of our community that is not. I mean, you talk about going to California and seeing what's going on over there. If you travel east from here through other parts of the state of Nevada, it's a totally different world. And so I think our community themselves are struggling, and that's why we're just trying to provide the data out there for people to make their own informed decisions. And I get the discussion with Commissioner Jung, and I fully understand and try to figure out how to work those things in to make sure that our own current population is comfortable going out here. Because we do have a big influx. I mean, if San Francisco is so strict, it's an easy drive for us to go there, but it's equally as easy for those people there to come here and spend their money. And so I think we're all struggling with what is the right level. We are, getting close to 2 years into this pandemic, and we're all struggling with what are those levels that we're gonna be living with, and what does that mean? So I appreciate the conversation. I would really like to continue.
Yeah, I mean,
follow up with you.
to Commissioner Jung's point, I mean, we just saw I just got the numbers for September from our CVA in regards to occupancy rates. We, once again, our ADRs and occupancy rate were that surpassed of September of 2019. So, I mean, we're well in advance of where we were pre-pandemic. I mean, 2018, I'm sorry, we were at higher numbers in 2018. So pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and even 2020. So our numbers are continuing climbing. So it's, to Commissioner Jung's point, as many people are going that way to go see baseball games and theater and fine dining and continue to exist in their lives. We're seeing this aggressive tourism equally in our direction, and our hotels and casinos are full, and our events are full. And, I think there's, because there's no statewide mandate there for a mask, there's that challenge of those incoming people for a state, and we're seeing it at the casino properties quite frequently of them having to enforce this. And so I'd like to get to some better quantifiable data, not only for the children, but for parents and for our businesses, because they're having this structural battle with the entire community about how to go about this. And they are really looking to the county to be that leadership and direction of those discussions. And right now we're between a rock and a hard spot because we're not providing all this very, very constructive data but we're not being able to convey it either. So we're in a difficult spot, but I think we need to take a very violent step forward to really move the needle and provide that level of invitation, because I'm at the place of not one place or the other. I want to make sure people are safe in our community. I want to make sure they feel comfortable within our community. How they choose to live their life is not going to be something I will ever decide. I will want them, but I want to give them every resource available to make those educated decisions on their own. And to do that, we have to provide them data, not data that we choose to give them, but every piece of information that they can sort through and help them surmise that information a little bit better, because just giving a number of 132 and a 5% here, that can be complicated to anybody. I know you and I sat there for at least the first 2 and 3 months trying to figure out how we were going to get to a quantifiable number and what that would look like. So it's challenging. So I think we need to Commissioner Jung's point, we need to do a better job on reliant, and we've been heavily reliant on Nevada, the Northern Nevada Hospital Association. We've been reliant on the state. I want to do a little bit more of an effective job trying to do outreach. Those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Solero. Any other discussion, Mr. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I agree completely with you, but I need you to go back to that slide, Mr. Solero, because I can't understand the percentages. That one right there. So you said, so we've got 267 new cases per 100,000, okay? And that's the...
So the information on our dashboard is for the week of 10/31 through 11/6.
Okay.
At 211.8 new cases per 100,000.
Okay, but we've got new cases confirmed is 97.
So that's the 14-day moving average.
Okay.
So, and that's where Commissioner Lucy is right. I mean, when you start looking at these things, there's some numbers are a 30-day moving average.
So 14-day moving average, you know, so that's 1,400, well, let's just round this, 1,400 cases per 100,000. How, by my math, 10,000 per 100,000 would be 10%. 5,000 would be 5%. So I don't understand the percentages. Did I miss something? Am I?
The equation's complicated.
Yeah, no, I think the difference is the test positivity percent is different than the percent of our population that has COVID. And so I mean.
And I'm not angry at you, so don't take this as adversarial towards you.
Totally get it.
This is not your doing. I don't understand. You know, I only went through college calculus, and so I'm not sure how they did this.
The number that's missing up there, that's the challenge. The number that's missing up there is the actual test performed.
Right, exactly. And but to your point, Mr. Chairman, the how many people are actually, because if we were testing all 100,000, or we testing, if everybody was getting a test, we would have a more accurate number, but they're not. Only those people who feel they're either frightened or feel sick, then they feel the need to go get tested. So the number for me, and again, I'm not calling you out. I'm just trying to understand. But I actually agree with you, Mr. Chairman. And it's really interesting. You have to wear a mask everywhere, but you can go to a restaurant and you don't have to wear a mask. And the restaurants are packed. And I've been to lots of restaurants, during this whole thing, and here I sit. So I understand. I don't know why, and I will say this again, not your fault. This isn't directed towards staff. I don't know why we did a local plan. It's never been followed. Governor has never given us the ability to follow it. So to say that I'm frustrated does not even begin to express how I feel. And again, not directed towards you, not directed towards our staff. It's not what this is about. Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further comments from any of the commissioners, thank you, Mr. Solero. I do appreciate you coming and providing us an update. Hopefully you can answer all of the commissioners' side questions that they may have in regards to messaging and outreach and some of the test data would be great. So thank you. We appreciate the follow-up. All right. That takes us through all of our business for this morning. It is 12 noon, almost. I'm just a minute shy. So I'm going to put us in recess. We have a time certain agenda item for 1 p.m. For item 13. We will be back at 1 p.m. To conduct our last item of business. We're in recess until 1. Eric, do you have me going? Commissioner Hill?
Yes,
You
Mr.
there?
Chairman. Here.
Okay. And then Commissioner Jung, do I have you?
Yes, I am.
All right, beautiful. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome everybody back. It is 1 o'clock. It is a pre-described time for our come back for recess from the Washoe County Board of Commissioners. We are at item 13. This is our time certain item for the day. And so with that, Mr. Manager, I will have you take us into this item, sir.
12 of the Nevada Constitution and NRS Chapter 218A, recommendation to nominate a qualified individual to be considered to fill a vacancy in Nevada Senate District 16, comprised of portions of Washoe County and Carson City. Recently vacated by, Benjamin Kekeffer. Is it Keek or Keck?
Kekeffer.
Thank you, I'm sorry. For the remainder of his term to expire upon the swearing-in of the successful candidate at the next regular election in 2022. The list of possible nominees is as follows: Melissa T. Clement, Jessica Glover, Rue Robert Goodnow, Stephen Garazi, Ronald W. Haslam, Lisa Krasner, Maxine Neitz, Heidi Palmer, Larry Payton, Tracy Don Smith, Donald Tatro, Jeffrey Theed, and Robert L. Weiss.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming and participating in this process today. We do appreciate you being here. I'm going to invite my Director of Government Affairs down, who has been actively involved in this process since the announcement of Senator Kekeffer's retirement, to provide us, the commission, an update where we are today prior to interviews. And when at her completion, I will go over some housekeeping rules with you, and then we will get right into the process. So with that, Ms. Rodriguez, can you give us a current update where we're at today?
First, I wanted to start, we do have a handful of applicants who have asked to be withdrawn, so I'm going to list their names first. Those who asked to be withdrawn are Ronald Haslam, Heidi Palmer, Larry Payton, Tracy Don Smith, and Jeffrey Theed. They have asked to be withdrawn and so are not present here today. In your staff report, you will note that we do have one applicant, Jessica Glover, who we were not able to verify as a eligible applicant for the seat based on the address provided to her, or provided by her, excuse me. I will now list off the applicants in order that they signed in based on the process outlined to the applicants. So first is Rue Robert Goodnow. Second applicant to sign in was Lisa Krasner. Third applicant to sign in was Melissa Clement. Fourth was Jessica Glover. Fifth was Donald Tatro. And sixth was Robert Wise. You have two additional applicants, Maxine Neitz and Stephen Garazi, who have not signed in at this point in time, but we will let you know if they do sign in to be interviewed for the seat.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. We do appreciate that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go through some housekeeping very quickly here about what the process is going to be today. For the 6 of you that are here to interview, we do appreciate you taking the time to come and take part in this civil process. We try to respect the democratic process and the legislative process as much as possible. And to do that, today we're going to give you an opportunity to come and present in front of the commission. We're going to give each one of you 3 minutes to share with us your qualifications and understanding of the position and why you would like to serve in the Senate District 16 seat. We will allow the commissioners to ask any subsequent follow-up questions after your interview. There may be or may not be any questions, so there aren't any set questions for the applicants. Today, we are trying to find the counties, from Washoe County Commission's standpoint, the best individual to represent Senate District 16 for the duration of the next 14 months. What I would say, please, if you haven't silenced your cell phones already, please silence your cell phone. After I've covered these housekeeping rules with you, I'll ask the applicants, everybody who has applied outside of Mr. Rue Robert Goodnow, to follow. Will be accompanied by our staff, Miss Alexandra Wilson. She will take you and be sequestered until you're called. She will usher you back and forth from the sequestered room at that time. At the completion of your comments, you may stay for the remainder of everybody else's interview process. We want to give everybody an adequate chance to interview for this. We are not providing Zoom. We made that a requirement for those individuals to do a Zoom that had to be in person. No Zoom interviews will be allowed. So we wanted to make sure that we could see and have that interaction with you in person. We do have 2 commissioners joining us via phone today due to health concerns and reasons. So that's why they are where they are currently. And that's that. That's all I have at this time. One thing I would like to do before we get started, Ms. Glover, are you here in the audience? Ms. Glover, can I have you come up, please, for me to the podium? Ms. Glover, when you submitted your application for this process, you provided us with an address that does not reside within Senate District 16. Do you have verification of your current residence?
Yes, I do. When I submitted my application, I had called first to check to see if my address was in the zone, and I couldn't get a clarified response, so I decided to go through with my application.
Okay, what is your current address, ma'am?
It's on Salo Court, Sparks, Nevada, 89431.
Okay, ma'am, that address does not reside within the district, so you are not qualified to sit in this seat. Okay. So I'm sorry, we won't be allowing you to participate today because you do not reside within the Senate District 16. You do not meet the basic qualifications.
What if I am moving?
Sorry, you have to have resided already in that district as of today for 30 days.
Okay.
So we would need verification either on your driver's license or a utility bill showing that you have been a resident within Senate District 16 as prior to today for 30 days.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I apologize. Thank you for coming today, but you will not be allowed to interview.
That's fine. And can I still sit in the
You can
process?
absolutely stay, but you won't be allowed to interview today because you don't meet those the basic requirements.
I understand, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Ms. Glover. All right. So Ms. Glover will not be, unfortunately, cannot qualify for the seat. Will not, and so we'll let the record show that. And Mr. Garazi and Ms. Neitz are not here in person to interview, so until they do show up, they will also not be allowed to interview. So with that being said, at this time, I would ask all the applicants, the other 5 applicants or 4 applicants, to please stand, and if you will follow Ms. Wilson at the back of the room to the other room for sequestering, we will get started. Oh, you sure? Should. Did we glue it on there? All right. I guess we tried. Thanks, Eric. All right. Mr. Goodnow. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair Lucy, members of the commission. My name is Rue. Well, it's not spelled correctly. It's Goodenow. But I'm pleased to be here representing myself today for the first time ever. This is a position that I have 3 reasons for applying for, and I'll first talk about my love for the state and love for Northern Nevada. Home means Nevada. Ever since we left, packed up from Iowa and left with our daughter to come out here, I have loved Northern Nevada. And I love it today. And we have two grandchildren who live here. And I'm hopeful that they'll enjoy the same place that Sue and I and our children have come to love. And that's why I'm doing this. I think this redistricting that is I think the primary focus for your appointment is so important to Northern Nevada. And you need to find someone who is well qualified to participate in that process. And that's really where I want to go next, is qualifications. I've spent over 30 years as a lawyer in Nevada, representing a variety of businesses, both small and large, and small businesses that became large businesses. And I've also donated my time to local causes, both my legal expertise and my time in a variety of capacities in the public governance and political realm. I served for quite some time as parliamentarian for the local Republican Party, for the state party, as general counsel, all the way up to being a delegate to the National Convention and sitting on the platform committee. I've represented public officials such as yourselves in ethics proceedings for the State Ethics Commission. And I've appeared before this and most of the other administrative and court bodies throughout the state up to the Ninth Circuit, where I've argued cases on behalf of the State Bar of Nevada. I argued the case that resulted in the second congressional district election being conducted the way it was. So I have a background that's going to be important, really vital for the presentation of Northern Nevada's argument when we go to the special session that's going to start in a week. You need to get someone appointed to this position who's going to hit the ground running and be able to understand and articulate constitutional requirements. And finally, I've been involved in the community. I teach ski lessons at Sky Tavern, where I serve on the board. I've been the president of the Rotary Club of Reno. I've held leadership positions, and I think that's important. Thank you very much for your time. 3 minutes goes quickly.
It does that, sir, but thank you, Mr. Goodnow. I appreciate your comments today. So, commissioners, are there any follow-up questions that you would like to ask of Mr. Goodnow in regards to the Senate district appointment?
Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Goodnow, and for the record, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important that we mention this. Mr. Goodnow and I have a personal relationship. At one point, our children dated in high school, so his daughter was an amazing flautist. I'm assuming still is. Our son was a tubist, and of course, music drew them together. They are not married, however. But Mr. Goodnow, tell us why you're the best candidate for the pick of District 16, representing both Washoe County and Carson City.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung, and thank you so much for your personal remarks. I value them, and your son is a wonderful person.
Thank you.
I believe that this is a unique appointment. I don't intend to run. I'm not looking at this as an opportunity to advance a political career. In fact, I don't think the person you appoint should advance their political career through this appointment. I may run for something else in the future, but what what Northern Nevada needs in this appointment is a person who is accustomed to, has been there, argued the tough situations, the tough cases, before people who didn't necessarily agree with them. That's the skill that you require. You do not require someone who has sort of compromising legislative point of view. You need an advocate. That's why I got involved in this position, because I did not think that what I had heard about individuals who were interested in this position was going to be the type of person that you would need. I think that you need a strong, think on their feet type of an advocate for Northern Nevada, someone who has the ability to read and understand Supreme Court decisional law, read and understand state election law, and to think on their feet while they're down at the legislature as the issues and proposals materialize. Also, I think it's important that you pick someone who's used to spending the time necessary to synthesize an important, perhaps complex set of facts. There's a big difference this year in the way that, as you know, that the redistricting is being conducted. The state has adopted and bought this new computer system. The person who takes this position is going to have to be able to understand that system and to use it. And I've already signed on. I've attended 2 of the 3 meetings that were conducted. I've begun reading up on the issues that were mentioned during public argument. And so for that reason, because I'm used to spending that time, late nights, early mornings, preparing for argument, I think I can do the job better than the other candidates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goodnow.
Commissioner Herman, do you have any questions? Commissioners, Jung, do you have anything?
No, thank you. Just to say hi to Mr. Goodnow and one of my inductees into the Reno Downtown Rotary. Thank you.
Marvelous. Commissioner Hill.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goodnow, I do have a personal relationship. You and I have interacted many times. And I know you live in the district and have been a strong advocate for the community during your time. Talk to me and give me just a brief synopsis of your understanding of the legislative process in Carson City, in the legislative building, and can you share with us an example of when you have either participated or observed special session?
So, Commissioner Chair Lucy, I have never been a legislator. I've been elected. I was the president of the State Bar Association at the culmination of 3 election cycles when I was served on that body. But I have been a lobbyist. I've never been a paid lobbyist. I've never used that side of my legal practice. My legal practice has been as a transaction lawyer and advocate. However, I have participated in writing legislation. As you, I think, may be aware, I was one of the lawyers who wrote the State's Limited Liability Company Act and participated in that, followed up with a book, and then was hired by the Secretary of State's office to do work after that in connection with it. I think I did a good job. I think the fact that they rehired me to do work says something about the job that I did. I also worked with Senator Raggio's office to draft the legislation that led to the caucus system. Senator Raggio's office called me during that time period, and I worked on that legislation. So I have had experience with the legislative process, although I've never served in office. Obviously, I have served in capacities where I have advised elected officials concerning election law for many years. It's not my primary practice. It has certainly been a part of my practice.
Understood. Thank you very much, Mr. Goodnow. thank you for coming today. I do appreciate it. I don't believe there's any more further questions for you. We do appreciate you applying for this position, and you can please stay. At the conclusion of all the interviews, we will go through the process and deliberate, and then we will let you know. So,
Thank you. I very much appreciate your service.
thank you so much. Thank you for applying. We do appreciate it. So next, we will have Miss Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner interview today. So she should be being ushered to the chambers right now. Welcome, Ms. Assemblywoman. It's nice to see you.
May I take my mask
You
off?
may.
It's a pleasure to see you.
Ms. Krasner, you're going to have 3 minutes to speak. If you can restart the timer, please, for her. 3 minutes to present to us, and then at the conclusion, the commissioners will ask you questions. So the floor is yours, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Chair Lucy and honorable members of the Washoe County Commission. I am Nevada State Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner. Thank you for the opportunity to be before you today. I would like to share with you my background and experience. I am the sitting Assemblywoman for Nevada State Assembly District 26. I have served on the 2017, 2019, and 2021 Nevada legislative sessions. I'm also an adjunct professor at Triquemenos Community College, where I teach courses on the United States Constitution and Nevada Constitution. Prior to that, I was an adjunct professor at the University of Phoenix, teaching courses on the United States Constitution and state and local political processes. I was also a non-paid lobbyist, a commissioner for the State of Nevada Commission on Aging and Disability for our seniors, a commissioner for the City of Reno Recreation and Parks Commission, a board member for the State of Nevada PTA, and president of the Reno Philharmonic Guild. I have a doctorate degree in law and a bachelor's degree. It's been an honor to serve as your Assemblywoman for 3 regular sessions and 2 special sessions. I put my heart and my soul into my work, as well as an enormous amount of time and effort. I take my job very seriously. Even though Nevada legislators are supposed to be part-time, to me it is more than a part-time job. It is a full-time responsibility. I am good at what I do and I love my work. I am known for my bipartisan legislation. We don't need a seat filler. We need a senator. We need someone who is accountable to the people with extensive current legislative experience, knowledge of the law, budgets and finance, and someone who can hit the ground running. And I am the only applicant who has all of these qualifications. Someone cannot just walk in the door of the legislator and know how things run. It takes time to learn the process, but I can start working immediately. I know how to work together with people to get things done, and I am the only one of the applicants who has redistricting experience because I have participated in 2 training sessions with the Legislative Council Bureau MAP redistricting specialist. I am uniquely qualified to serve during the special session and on the interim committees. Yes, you may have to appoint someone to fill the Assembly District 26 seat, but that is one of the duties of this commission. The entire process for filling the Senate 16 seat is 3 weeks from beginning to end with 2 boards participating. The time to fill the Assembly 26 seat will be less time with only 1 board necessary to appoint someone. Although it is a bit more work for you, please choose the most qualified person to represent the people in Senate District 16. I am an experienced legislator and we need experience in the Senate. I love Nevada and I care about the people who live here. I am the most qualified person for this position, and I will fight for the people in this district. I respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you, Ms. Krasner. I do appreciate you coming and presenting and applying today. I'm going to turn it out to the commissioners now for any further follow-up questions. All right. Commissioner Vice Chairman points out that you answered all his questions in the opening statements. Commissioner Herman. No follow-ups? Commissioner Jung?
No, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Hill?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Krasner, we do appreciate you coming in, and I think your experience speaks for itself. We know of you well, and you have represented us in the legislature as in the assembly for years now, and we're very thankful for that. We appreciate you coming and interviewing today for the Senate District 16 and know how important the seat is. So thank you at this time. You're more than welcome to stay. We do appreciate your application for this process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next applicant today will be Melissa Clement. Miss Melissa Clement should be being ushered to the chambers as we speak. We will get underway here shortly. Ms. Clement, nice to see you
Good
again.
afternoon.
Thank
Good
you
afternoon, Commissioner, Chair, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're glad to have you here. So before we're jumping the gun just a little bit on you. I don't want to steal any time from you. You'll have 3 minutes to provide us a little bit about yourself and your qualifications for the position, and then we'll follow up with questions after.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Let's see.
You're on.
I am a almost 40-year resident of Washoe County. I've lived in Senate District 16 for 15 years. I'm married with 3 children. I'm a graduate of Reno High School, University of Nevada, and just life in Northern Nevada. If I were sitting in your seat, my first question would be, why on earth would we pick you? Well, I think we live in pretty extraordinary times right now. And I think you guys get to see it, I don't know if it's every week or every other week. People are so frustrated and they're so angry. And they feel like they don't have a seat at the table, quite honestly. And it's understandable because we have lived for the last 2 years with one person making the rules for all of us, for our businesses, for our families. And I gotta think that it's pretty frustrating for you folks as well, because you are the people closest to every single problem in Washoe County. You see it, you see the suicides, you see the COVID numbers. Yet your hands are tied often. And I would imagine that when you're sitting there looking at somebody like me who's frustrated because my kids were not in school, or my son couldn't buy a house because it's so expensive, all those things, you're feeling attacked because you can't make a lot of changes. You know, I was talking to Kristen McNeil, the superintendent, a couple of months ago about mask mandates, because quite honestly, it's not necessary for our kids, and it's hurting our kids socially, whether they can read, all those kinds of things. And we had a great conversation, because I have compassion for her having to make those same kinds of decisions. And I said, well, what can you do? And she said, quite honestly, there's nothing I can do, because the governor's making all the decisions. Now, this is a complete, we've just kind of given up our power as people. And quite honestly, if you pick me, my goal is to get us back to the real normal, the normal we had 3 years ago, where we had 3 branches of government. And the legislature should be making decisions, should be telling Washoe County how much money you're going to get to spend on suicide or whatever, and then letting you folks make that decision. The judicial should have a say in this. Quite honestly, one person, no matter how good he is, cannot be the medical chief the medical person in chief, can't tell me how to raise my kids, can't fix education, all that kind of stuff. It is a cooperative thing. Now, I know that redistricting is top of mind for everybody, but quite honestly, if you looked at Twitter today, those decisions have been made. The geography is with Las Vegas, sadly, but I guarantee if you select me, I will be fighting for that, fighting for geographic and as much kinds of diversity other than just race. We need to consider other things, industries, that kind of thing. I like to talk. I'm sorry.
It's very difficult to get
Yeah.
through. I mean, I know, to get everything in 3 minutes. And there's a broad strokes. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our other commissioners we appreciate your comments. So I'm going to have some follow-up questions. So, Vice Chairman.
Ms. Clement, thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate you coming up, and it's not easy to throw your name in the hat for these kinds of things. Tell us, and you've articulated this to some degree, but tell us exactly why you're the best person to represent District 16 for both Washoe County and Carson City.
Absolutely.
We saw some things in Carson City. They made a decision based on Carson City, but we recognize here in Washoe County that the district encompasses two distinct areas of our region.
Right.
And so how will you approach this from that perspective of both Washoe and Carson, trying to balance those very different communities?
Well, given where I live, which is south suburban, it's very much, I feel like Carson City is more my backyard than Sparks is, quite honestly. We eat dinner in Carson City more often than we do. So that from that perspective.
And you know I live in Sparks.
I know. You used to be my commissioner a couple of years ago.
Sorry, I just...
I love Sparks. But that's, so geographically, I think I can deal with that. Why am I best suited to do this? I feel like I'm kind of, in broad strokes, Nevada. I moved here as third generation of a mining company. My dad had a small mining company. We still have a gold property out in Summit, near Ichthyosaur Park. I went to UNR. I dealt cards to pay for my way through it. I have been lobbying at the legislature since I was 20 years old as a student lobbyist for UNR. I'm down at the legislature more often than I'm at my house during session. I know I have relationships on both sides of the aisle. Quite honestly, a lot of times I get along better with the Democrats. We do not agree on a lot of issues, but those are some of my oldest and dearest friends. If you select me, you don't have to select an assemblyman to fill my place. I think I'm the only one that's probably as in tune to the issues in our community right now. Why is that? Because I've got 3 kids that are going through, my youngest is graduating from high school. My oldest just bought a house in Sparks. That I am a Nevadan. I bleed silver and blue, and hardly ever red, by the way. Rebels. That's why you will get a voice. Because quite honestly, this redistricting, it will be done in a week. So I challenge you to look at this decision for longer than a week. For 15 months, you will get somebody who will use the position to advocate for Carson City residents, Incline Village residents, Washoe County, all the way up to Gerlach. Well, no, that's probably not SD 16, but I plan on, doing open houses to hear what's going on in SD 16. Because quite honestly, I didn't feel like I was represented the last several years. I want to leave Nevada a better place for my kids and my grandkids. And if I sit on the sidelines, I don't think I can. So I won't be sitting on the sidelines. It's just a matter of will I be a senator or not, basically.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Herman, do you have anything? All right. Commissioner Jung?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hill?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Ms. Clement, thank you. I do appreciate you coming in and interviewing today. I have a couple questions for you.
Absolutely.
Based upon your profile provided to us in your CV, your current positions is that you act as a lobbyist for the Nevada Right for Life and are currently the executive director for the Nevada Right for Life. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, are you aware that if an appointment was made and you were appointed to the Senate, that you would no longer be able to be at the termination of your whether you chose to run or not, that you would no longer be able to lobby for a year, a span of 12 months after that term. Do you understand that?
I checked with LCB. I had Assemblywoman Dickman check, because I have operated as both a paid and a non-paid nonprofit.
Right.
I would just simply lobby as a non-paid nonprofit.
Okay. Just, okay. Thank you for that. Appreciate the clarification there. Ms. Clement, have you participated in, through your experience with the legislature, have you participated in any special sessions and are aware of the process during special session?
I did participate remotely in the last special session.
Okay.
And I think previously, probably back many years, I did attend.
Okay.
But certainly not to the level that I do during a regular session.
Understood. But you are aware of the process?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right. And then one final question. You discuss about your willingness to participate in committees and whatnot. I did witness your interview, but I wanted to just confirm. My understanding is that you are not looking to be reelected to this position. You are
Correct.
looking just to serve
Correct.
for the end of this term, correct?
Correct. And specifically because that kind of makes me a free agent, and I don't have to worry about getting reelected. That's the hardest part of your old job. And I think that frees me up to speak a little louder, a little clearer. I can just work really hard for a year and not have to worry about the campaigning. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We do appreciate you coming and interviewing with us today. Thank you for all the time and your continued civic duty.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We will move on. The next applicant will be Donald Tatro. He should be getting ushered in here at this moment. Thank you all for being so patient today and providing us with that. And Ms. Glover, I do want to point out, thank you so much for applying for your civic, for this civic duty. It is very much a huge step to throw your hat into the ring. And so we appreciate you being here. We really do.
Off the record, I could, give my expertise of why.
It's okay. I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tatro. I appreciate you coming today. Thank you. If you would like, you can remove your mask. You'll have 3 minutes to provide for us an outline of why you want to serve in Senate District 16 and your qualifications therein. And then we will have, if there are any questions of you, subsequently we will follow you up with those. So, floor is yours, sir.
Great. Well, thank you, commissioners, for your time today to discuss my application for the appointment to Nevada Senate District 16. As someone who spent nearly all of my life living in this district, from my childhood to now raising a family in it, I believe it would be one of the greatest honors to serve the residents in an area that has shaped so much of my life. As an appointee for this position, I would do all that I could to work and fulfill the obligations of the office. To achieve this, I would rely on my current and past experiences in government and the private sector. This includes my time working in the United States Senate, where an understanding of federal, state, and local and parliamentary procedure was required. My recent time as CEO of the Builders Association of Northern Nevada, working very closely with current legislators of both parties, current local officials, and current policymakers and current staff to help our membership build homes and to improve all Nevadans' access to housing. In this role, I worked recent legislative sessions with current legislators, Republicans and Democrats, on a variety of legislation, including modernizing regulations to the digital age and trying to increase solar use in new neighborhoods. I worked hard to find common ground with all sides of our current issues, focusing on solutions and not just problems and heated rhetoric. Also now is my role as a sales manager and lender with North Point Bank, and the other private sector experiences I have will help give a rounded perspective and understanding to the consequences, both good and bad, of legislation and actions at all levels of government. As I mentioned earlier, I would take this appointment as a privilege. It would be a fulfillment of my civic duty that I would not only love, but also carry out with the seriousness as with the additional boards and organizations I actively participate on today within our community. From currently coaching my kids, to being the first vice chair and incoming president of Ace Charter High School, as a current member of the Washoe County Managers Advisory Committee, currently as the Realtors Association Legislative Committee vice chair, also my recent time as chairman of Reno Marashevi's Housing Task Force. I want to give back to the community my family and I live in, and that I grew up in, and that I'm engaged in now and will be long into the future. My current involvement with our community and its current issues, my active relationships with our presently elected officials and staff will be of great benefit during the upcoming redistricting session and for the remainder of this term. An appointment to the Nevada Senate District 16 seat would be humbling and one of the greatest privileges and honors of my lifetime for the reasons I have outlined and more. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Tatro. We do appreciate your opening statements. That's fantastic. Vice Chairman, do you have any follow-up questions from Mr. Tatro?
Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Herman? Nothing to follow up. Commissioner Jung?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Hill?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Tatro, thank you so much for coming and applying with us today for this civic duty of Senate District 16. From your application, we have read enough, and I think you've pretty much clarified everything we need to ask of you today. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Thank you. All right. We're on to our fifth and final candidate of the day. This is going to be Mr. Robert Weiss. Mr. Weiss.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
You can remove your mask if you would so choose so that we can hear you clearly. You will have 3 minutes to present to us your opening statement, and we will follow up with any subsequent follow-up questions we have at the conclusion of that statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow commissioners. My name is Bob Wise, and I appear here today because I'm deeply concerned about the outcome of the special session, and I believe I can do the best job for the citizens of Washoe County. Assuming you're not going to although I live in Carson City, I'm only 2 miles south of the county line. I've been a Washoe County resident for 60 years, and I've represented Washoe County in the legislature, TRPA, Western States Legal Foundation, and the State Ethics Commission. My entire family lives in Washoe County. I was also a veteran for 4 years in the United States Army. Assuming you're not going to vacate Assembly District 26 without representation in this session, I'm the most qualified applicant and the only seasoned politician with legislative experience. I was elected 3 times from this very district in Washoe County, and like Senator Kekeffer, I've served 3 times on the Interim Finance Committee. I'm not applying to promote my political career. That pursuit is behind me. If I were appointed, I absolutely would not run for re-election, leaving future candidates an even playing field for next year's elections. What does motivate me, based on my legislative experience, is that Las Vegas and Clark County, the South, are going to be very aggressive in dismantling the influence of all of northern Nevada. And they're going to move as much as possible our sphere of influence out of northern Nevada and into the South. The session will probably begin next week. That certainly isn't sufficient time for an inexperienced appointee to learn the rules and procedures of the Senate, nor is it sufficient time to learn the ropes of behind-the-scenes negotiation. Your senator must be seasoned and coyote smart in order to help craft the best possible outcome. This session is about redistricting all of Washoe County. The good news is there's not total unanimity in the South. Even though reapportionment is more of a regional issue than a partisan one, they both come into play because 11 Democratic senators live in Clark County. Each Democratic senator will want to cherry-pick precincts of wealth and influence while not having too many Republicans. To compound the problem, there will be 2 assemblymen in each Senate district with the same motivation, and compromise will be difficult. Further complicating the situation is that some of these districts abut 5 and 6 other Senate districts, so the infighting will be vicious when it comes to moving boundaries. While the Republicans and rural senators won't drive this process, their support will be essential in order to reach a final resolution. This is where experience, tact, and finesse come into play. The process will be subtle, but I believe with my skill set and experience, Washoe will come out with the best possible Senate districts and protect those who may get disenfranchised from Washoe County. And unanimously selecting me, Carson City recognized my legacy in Washoe County and selected me as an act of good faith to unite Carson and Washoe County in this effort. I've also been endorsed by Senator Settlemyre, but I made no obligation or commitment to gain that support. I ask you confirm me as the appointee to the Senate. Thank you for your consideration. It's an important decision, and I'm prepared to answer any questions. Did I make 3 minutes?
Perfectly. Now that,
yes.
That is a talent, sir. Thank you, Mr. Weiss. I'm going to turn it over to our Vice Chairman first.
Turn my mic on. Mr. Weiss answered my questions in his opening statements, and I am comfortable.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Herman. No questions from Commissioner Herman. Commissioner John.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Commissioner Hill.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Mr. Weiss, thank you so much for coming today and presenting to us. One question I did have is that you discussed redistricting very distinctly in your opening statement. And as a qualified individual, did you participate in your sessions in redistricting when you were in the legislature, sir?
No, it didn't come up. I was elected in 75, 7, and 9. Redistricting occurred at the beginning of the decade. What I did do, though, is I did introduce a bill where all of the Senate districts at that time had the same boundaries as your county commission districts, so that when people went to the polls, they wouldn't be confused of somebody living across the street and voting for maybe the same county commissioner but a different senator. Right. That's as close as I got to reapportionment.
Okay. And Mr. Weiss, have you participated ever in a special session?
Yes.
You have?
Yes. I
as a
participated
legislator?
As a legislator in the 1979 special session on the TRPA.
Okay, so you're well aware of the process during a special session and what that would encompass.
I believe I am. Okay. It's been a while, but I haven't lost my skills, just a little hair.
Hey, that's happening to all of us. Mr. Weiss, in recent years, now I'm firmly aware of your experience during the 75, 77, and 79 session, and then also the special session. In recent years, have you had any interaction at the legislature? What has been your experience in the recent years?
I lobbied as a director for First Interstate Bank on banking issues that were before the legislature. I also lobbied on behalf of Harvey's Casino. They owned the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas as well as the hotel at the lake, on special interest issues for them particularly, most particularly with the TRPA, but in gaming in general.
Okay. And as recent as, when was the last session you participated in?
Well, that's a great question. I guess my greatest contribution is I've been giving money to legislators for a long time, but last time I attended was 3 years ago as a guest in a, what did they call us, an alumni legislator. We're invited down to have lunch and spent the day in the session.
But actual participation was?
No.
Okay. Right.
But sir, the process hasn't changed. I've been in contact with all of the major lobbyists in Washoe County in the last month. Just to get background, I went to Las Vegas to meet with both business and political people down there to get a feel of the land. So I feel I'm fully qualified to go in running.
Okay, marvelous. Thank you, sir. We do appreciate your responses and your statement. Seeing no other further questions, we thank you for applying today and participating in this process.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today and the brief statements that were made by all of the interviewees. What I'm going to do now is we will deliberate, and we will in just a second. I'm going to allow public comment in just a second, but for those who wishing to speak under public comment, but I'm just going to do some little housekeeping. We will do public comment, and then we will deliberate amongst the commission and add any commentary each commissioner may want, and then we will go through a voting process. Each commissioner will be allowed to, will be provided with a slip with every applicant's names on it that are eligible for the position. Each commissioner will place one vote for one individual. If we come to a tie, we will do a second round of voting with just the final applicants, and we will get down to one applicant at the end of the voting process by all 5 commissioners. So with that, Madam Clerk, I will ask you, is there any public comment signed in for this item?
I have nobody in chambers signed in, but I do have 4 emails that came in.
Okay.
I have Neil Rombardo in support of Don Tatro. I have Tom Dunn in support on behalf of professional firefighters for Lisa Krasner. I have Roger Edwards in support of Melissa Clemens. And I have Mari Hutchinson in support of Don Tatro.
Okay. So I have those, thank you, and we'll put those those emails. I've also received many, I would say over 100 plus emails in support of Miss Melissa Clement, Miss Lisa Krasner, Mr. Bob Weiss, Mr. Don Tatro. I do appreciate it shows your continued commitment within the community and Senate District 16. I'm going to start off really about some of my comments as the Senate, the Commissioner for District 2. A good portion of this Senate district resides within Commission District 2. And Senate District 16 is responsible for 150,000 individuals within Senate District 16, just within Senate District 16. And my requirements have always been, being that I've had the pleasure to serve and work with Senator Kiekefer on a number of issues for the last 8 years of my career, I've had the opportunity to see those challenges within Senate District 16. And upon the retirement of Mr. Kiekefer, I felt it prudent that the representative that would go to and be a placeholder for this seat, because this is the people's house. I believe that this should be a fair election of the for any individual, being that Senator Kiekefer was termed out and would no longer be, and this would be an open seat in the 2022 election, that the people have that decision on who they are represented for, because there are a myriad of issues outside of redistricting and finance. All of the applicants that interviewed with us today are very, very, very quite capable of going down and representing Senate District 16 and those 150,000 constituents. But not only just those constituents in Senate District 16, but the entire state, in my mind. The issues that are coming in front of you over the next 14 months are very, very important. So my requirements have always been and will continue to be that the individual come from Washoe County and is a resident of Washoe County, as 62% of the district resides within Washoe County. I've always preferred, as I am myself, an individual who's involved in the business community has a firm understanding of the needs and necessities of the business community and what that is, and is continuously active, and has a strong understanding of the legislative process. The legislative process can be arduous, very fast-moving, and can be very confusing at times, and is a challenge. I would also say with this, this is in no way disrespectful to Ms. Krasner, but somebody who's not currently in office. Somebody who can serve, because as we all know, at the in the next week, more than likely, the governor and the speaker of the Assembly will be calling a special session to discuss redistricting in our state, which is a very contentious and very difficult discussion to have. And we would not have the time to send out applications and put somebody in to have that strong representation. I think that you have a strong argument, Ms. Krasner, in the sense that you would be a strong advocate for us down there and have a strong understanding of that position. However, I cannot lose that strong representation in the Assembly just to have to move you to another house. I think moving you to another house so that we can have an open seat does not do the Washoe County any justice and the constituent base. I think that the connectivity is a big portion of this. I don't believe that sending an individual down to be divisive about issues that are not pertinent within the next 14 months is going to be of benefit. I think connectivity and creating those bridges of discussion. As the maps were released this morning, hopefully some of you have been able to witness those maps of the connectivity between the north and the south. Much of the process will be, as many of you understand, predicated on decisions of southern lawmakers. However, the fight will not be in the north. The fight will be in the south, where they will be deciding assembly districts. Senate District 16, as presented to me in the draft maps that are out there, is preserved, if not gained a little bit of representation of Story County. So as Senate District 16 grows, it will have not any less representation, but more representation of constituents that need guidance. And so, with that being said, it is my opinion that those are my requirements for an individual to go down there. And those are my comments and my feelings alone, not the feelings of this commission, but my feelings about this Senate district, and has always been about this Senate district. So with that, I will turn my comments over to the remainder of my commission. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a difficult decision. On its easiest day, it's extremely difficult. I'll go in order. Mr. Goodnow, you and I have known each other for a long time. You have 30 years, 30 plus years of practice in law. You have a deep understanding of the way laws are crafted. You mentioned that you didn't want to run. You would be an advocate for District 16 in Northern Nevada. And I know you're always prepared, so I'm confident that you would be fully able to do this. Ms. Krasner, currently representing District 26 in the Assembly. You served in the 17, 19, and 21 sessions. You have a deep understanding. You have deep relationships. I mean, there's absolutely no question that you're highly qualified for this position. You do, however, want to run for this particular seat. And so that's a little difficult for me. And I also agree that filling your current seat is going to be somewhat difficult. It would put us right back where we are. So those are just my comments. But you're absolutely highly qualified. Ms. Clement, nearly 40 years as a resident in Northern Nevada. You and I probably moved here somewhat the same time, and we may have even run across each other in casinos where you were dealing cards. I worked in a casino for many years. You understand Washoe County's role in the community. I believe you mentioned that you would not run, so that's certainly a benefit. I like that you understand that Washoe County's, the position that we're in right now, where people think we have a lot of authority, and the reality is we don't have nearly as much authority as many people think, and I was impressed that you understand that. And then, you know, you were a lobbyist since you were about 20 years old. I mean, you have a lot of deep relationships. It makes you highly qualified. I mean, there's absolutely no question. Mr. Tatro, you grew up in Carson City. You lived in Washoe County for many years. I've known you at the Builders Association. I know how hard you've fought for the builders and all the great work that you've done there. I know that you're deeply connected in the community. You have a lot of very good relationships. You've had to walk some very fine lines with elected officials. I know you know them all, as do many others. You know all of the local elected officials, and you've had working relationships with all of them. I'm not going to say they were always good. You and I have bumped heads on occasion, and I don't fault you for that. That's the position that all lobbyists come into. So again, you're highly qualified. Mr. Weiss, I mean, what can I say? There's no question you're seasoned. You mentioned that you will, oh, Mr. Tatro, by the way, and you mentioned you will not run, so that's an important one for me as well. Mr. Weiss, no question you're a seasoned politician. I was very pleased that you brought up Clark's control over the state. That's you know, when I was a kid, I grew up in southern Nevada. My family moved there in 1962. Very different place, very, very different dynamics. Clark County wanted to just be sort of this little island, and of course Carson City and Reno and the northern Nevada areas were by far more influential in the state. You understand the change in those dynamics. You've participated in special sessions, and you know, my only fear though is that you don't have the current relationships with many of the folks in Carson City. By the way, nor do I. So that's not a pejorative comment, it's just an observation. You're all highly qualified. This is a very difficult decision, but I think I'm prepared to make a decision when the time has come. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me make comments.
Commissioner Herman, any final comments from you?
Explaining about five people that are all the most wonderful pieces of our citizenry in this county. I mean, the most outstanding and upright and experienced. Wow, you make it very hard, but I'm also ready to vote. I don't want to keep the suspense any longer.
All right. Commissioner Jung, any final comments?
I want to thank everybody who applied, and even the applicant who still came down to the chambers to make sure that she actually wasn't in the right district. I think that we need every single one of us to make this community and our quality of life the best it can be for all of us. So I thank all of you for being here today. It's not easy doing a 3-minute pitch, but you were all very compelling, and I'm proud of all of you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you to all the applicants for applying today. And I was also very impressed by what they've done for our state and our community. And I look forward to working with all of them moving forward, and ready to get the vote done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Once again, thank you everybody for participating today. I'll ask the clerk to distribute the voting sheets to each commissioner. For the 2 commissioners that are participating remotely, if you will select from your list and email the clerk so that they can verify your vote, the clerk will verify the votes of the 2 outside commissioners and certify that and witness that. Once she's collected all the ballots and certified that, the clerk will read off the ballots.
You may sign it.
No, they already discussed it. All right, Madam Clerk, have you received all the votes from the commission?
I have received all of the votes.
Okay. If you'll
Would
proceed
you like me
with-
to read them off?
Please.
Bob Lucy, vote for Don Tatro. Vaughn Hartung, vote for Don Tatro. Jeannie Herman, vote for Melissa Clement. Commissioner Jung, Don Tatro. Commissioner Hill, Don Tatro. That is 4 for Don Tatro, 1 for Melissa Clement.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that. So I have 4 votes for Mr. Tatro, 1 vote for Ms. Clement. Mr. Tatro will move forward as Washoe County's submitted applicant. That will be confirmed tomorrow in a joint meeting with Carson City, but today we will confirm that here at Washoe County. So I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner
I
Vice
move
Chairman.
that we move Mr. Tatro's name into tomorrow's session with Carson City.
All right.
Does that suffice? Mr. Edwards, we don't have a prepared motion, so.
Yes, I think anything that indicates that Mr. Tatro is going to be the nominee of Washoe County.
Okay. Move to nominate a qualified individual to be considered to fill the vacancy in Nevada Senate District 16.
Yep, okay. So I have a motion to move Mr. Don Tatro forward as the applicant, a nominee for Senate District 16 representing Washoe County. I will second that motion. I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. Please affirm your vote on the screen. And we are conclusion. Thank you thank you to everybody who came today. We do appreciate you participating in this process. I know it's very tenuous, but we do appreciate it. So Mr. Tatro, if you'd like to come down and provide us any final statements, you may do that.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for your support. I didn't have anything prepared, didn't know I was going to come up here, but I will do my best in the upcoming session to represent this district, and appreciate your picking me today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tatro. We do appreciate it and look forward to you serving for us in the next 14 months. Vice Chairman.
Congratulations, Mr. Tatro.
All right, that concludes our business for today. Mr. Manager, we're on to our final public comment.
This item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. Commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
All right, Madam Clerk, will you please call public comment?
Here in chambers, we have Valerie Fianaka, followed by Wayne Gordon.
All right, Ms. Fianaka.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I want to thank you all for your service during these very difficult times we live in. Mr. Lucy, I wanted to correct you. During your speech to the service members, you referred to us as a democracy. This is a common mistake. To quote Benjamin Franklin, we have a republic if we can keep it. Now I want to go on to COVID. We shouldn't call this a vaccine. It's more like a flu shot. It decreases in efficiency in about 6 months and requires multiple boosters. which decrease the effective function of your innate immune system. There is distrust for a variety of reasons, one of which was on full display today. The numbers game, social media shutdown of all conversation, even by physicians, renowned physicians, Harvard, Yale, makes people extremely suspicious. Debate is healthy. Good science should be able to withstand scrutiny. I posted a screenshot from the CDC website last month, and I was banned from a social media site for life. That should send off flares to everybody. Nurses, doctors, EMTs, firefighters, truck drivers, grocery store clerks, and our military are all facing loss of job now if they don't comply. But they were heroes who survived and carried us through this pandemic. I believe you took an oath to the Constitution. You wield power, maybe not a lot as I've heard today, but you do wield power in our county. If you feel Governor Sisolak is mandating something unconstitutional, do you have a duty to carry it out? I mean, isn't your first duty to the Constitution? I have a personal story about COVID as well. I took 2 of my grandchildren to the Spanish Springs Library this week. One has severe autism and epilepsy. The other has asthma and just got out of the hospital after 6 days with pneumonia, RSV pneumonia, as you mentioned in your talk with the officer. Both should not be in masks, but in order to try to use the library, we tried to put the masks on. The librarian noticed the 3-year-old with his mask below his nose and started following us around, yelling at him to pull it up or leave. Neither child was able to fully comply, nor understand, for that matter, the one with autism especially. Even after I explained the situation in detail to this woman, she persisted and made me leave with the children crying, not understanding what was happening to them. They didn't understand why they couldn't get a book, nor why she was so mean. This is totally unacceptable. Neither child can get vaccinated because of their health conditions, and both have medical exemptions from the mask. I have lost the right as a taxpayer to use the library I pay for unless I go through the drive-through. And how do you explain that to a child with autism who is not even verbal? Totally unacceptable. On another note, I've spoken before about losing my son to opioid overdose. Please give me 1 second. Driving through Sparks yesterday, I saw a billboard stating, quote, "Don't be your child's drug dealer. Lock up your pot." Really? I don't know if this is paid for with government dollars, but the problem with education in Nevada might be related to something like that.
Thank you, Ms. Fianacca.
Next up, we have Wayne Gordon.
Mr. Gordon, welcome. Welcome.
I absolutely couldn't believe this morning. You welcomed the veterans, and you said to them that we have you to thank for our freedoms. I'm not really argue about that. You immediately went to item number, what was it, 12, 11, to talk about the COVID crap, which is all taking away our freedoms. Masking is forced. That's not freedom. We have laws in our land. Our laws are supposed to be, in the case of Nevada, right, passed by the legislature, approved by the governor, and then put into effect. There has been no laws on COVID, no laws, but you're forcing us to wear a mask, okay? The next thing is forced vaccinations. In some cases right now, it's really coerced. There's not a whole lot of difference between forcing and coercing if you're going to make us have vaccinations, regardless, especially when you're threatening people's jobs. We have certain individual people who want the freedom to have their opinions of how their bodies should be treated if they get COVID are being violated because if you want to have ivermectin or hydrochloroquine, right, you can't go and get it. Even with a prescription from your doctor for ivermectin, they won't give it to you. Is that freedom? And we've heard nothing but lies since the start of this pandemic. We've heard we can't do this, you can't do this, but they leave the border open and we have millions coming across the border, many who have COVID. This has become a basically faked disease that's being used to control us. Wear your mask. Ms. Jung wanted to seem to say that forcing vaccinations and using vaccination cards to get your meals is a good thing. That's not a good thing. That's a loss of our freedom. In the case of In-N-Out Burger, a loss of their small businesses. There's no freedom. If you're going to thank them for it, then give it. Get rid of that whole crap.
Thank you, sir.
That's all we have signed up in chambers, but I do have 2 emails, one from Janet Butcher and one from Chiara Masalayo, to be placed on the record.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we are on to item 15. Mr. Manager.
Item 15 is Commissioners and County Managers' announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commissions updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas.
All right, Mr. Manager, do you have anything to follow?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to request the ability to put an item on the agenda at our next meeting for an update on Quartz Lane along with the sheriff, to provide the commissioners with an update on our actions.
Okay, great.
That's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioner Herman, I have you signed in.
Yes, you do. I, again, am going to request that we end this health emergency and get this county back to normal.
Thank you, Commissioner Herman. Commissioner Jung, do you have anything final?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Hill?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us. The commissioners, thank you very much for today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you.
All right.